Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we talk about all the latest in pop culture news, gaming news, TV and movie reviews. I'm Price of Reason, and as usual, I have with me my co host, Professor R2. How's it going, Professor?
I'm doing well. Just arrived on a hyperspace shuttle, and boy, are my arms tired. Or wait, no, boy is my motivator tired. I don't know. I think I blew that one.
It's okay. In any case, it's great to be here again, and ever since that election, I think there's been so many things going on. Uh, it's not even a matter of every day that there's things that are happening. It's just a whole it's kind of a whole shift, a whole shift in vibe, if that makes any sense. I feel like a lot of things feel different, and you could really see the difference, especially when it comes to pop culture stuff, when it comes to entertainment. How it's inevitable because for so many years now, all of our entertainment has become so political. So when you have this kind of election, and it really seemed to be like a real shakeup, political shakeup in the country. I think it also affects the whole pop culture landscape, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think you're right. There's a lot of people already talking about how Hollywood and various studios, various individuals even are going to have to start adjusting to the way that they do business or adjusting to the new reality. I think today, did you see the Jaguar? Did you see their ad that they put out today?
That Jaguar, I think didn't get the memo. I saw their
Yeah,
ad, and I'm thinking to myself, I think that they think we're in 2020 and not 2024. I
or
looked at that,
yeah.
and uh, it looks like they had the Bud Light people come and
Oh
give them advice
boy.
on marketing. I really couldn't even understand what I was looking at there. I don't think we'll get a any kind of issue. Let me see if I can find that thing and we can look
Yeah,
at it.
just bizarro. I mean,
Bizarre. I mean, I can't imagine anybody in their right mind would actually approve such a commercial. But since you mentioned it, let's see if I can find this thing. Like, I would be embarrassed if I were them. Okay, I think I got it. Let's see if we can share this. Honestly, it feels like I don't know, a Jaguar. Maybe things move very slowly within that company. To say that they're not feeling the pulse of the marketplace right now would be an understatement. And
yeah,
let's take a
I have
look at this
no
thing. Let's
idea.
take a look.
Oh, we've got a Sean Crummell. Better get
What?
him on
Oh
screen.
wow, we got Sean. Oh, and he's in, how come I don't see him? Okay, okay.
Yeah, switch to yeah, there you go.
Hey Sean, how's it going?
Yay.
It's going. How are you?
And I want to also point out, always I'm happy to see Marla Sharondoff amongst our viewers. Marla Sharondoff is a friend of the channel. So Sean, did you see this Jaguar commercial thingy?
Not a clue. I've been out with my wife all day.
That's better than watching this thing. In any case, Jaguar, they used to have the cool cars.
Oh yeah.
They decided that they want to create a cool marketing campaign, and what you're about to see, this is their new marketing campaign. Are you ready?
Um, my body is ready.
Your
Okay,
mind, however, perhaps
let's
not.
do this.
I'm done. What does that have to do with cars?
I have no idea. It looks more like Paris Fashion Week. Uh, it's it's gaudy and slightly offensive to the eye, and then you've got all those clearly, um, let's just say, queer characters that are part of the little presentation. I'm just they got some very bad marketing advice
Very bad marketing advice.
for
The
this
thing is,
campaign.
I just wonder if I'm, let's say I'm the CEO of Jaguar. Let's just say theoretically, and I'm sitting there and somebody says to me, "Okay, we're about to release this commercial. What do you think?" I would say, "Don't release it." I find out who did this, and I'd fire them all on the spot. This is absolutely not what you want from Jaguar. Jaguar is a company that its history was they have these cool cars. It's luxury. It's fancy. You know, really targeting maybe men. I think that they had a certain crowd of kind of well-off men that they could try to appeal to. I feel like they went through the same process as Bud Light did. Somebody told them, "Hey, why don't you do some kind of gender ambiguous people? And this is really going to help your sales." And I don't think that this is the type of help that they needed.
It's clearly a misunderstanding of the demographic that is going to buy your product, which I think Harley Davidson was going through for a while. uh, they didn't
Right.
want to cater to the outlaw type mentality, and their whole company has taken a nosedive because of it. And yeah, just trying to reach other markets, I think they've completely missed the mark of who their market actually was.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that this really shows when you're out of touch. The reason I kind of bring that Bud Light example is because if you remember that, what was her name? Heiner Scheid. I don't know. She had a
Yeah.
funny name that's similar to what I'm saying. If you remember, Bud Light hired a special quote unquote expert in marketing. It was some relatively young lady. Her name was like Heiner Scheid or something like that. And shiny eyed or whatever.
Yeah.
Was something like that. In any case, they caught her later in this kind of interview that she was on a Zoom call interviewing, something like that. That she's like, "Well, we're tired of having these kind of customers that are this. We don't want the frat boys. We don't want this. We don't want that." And at the end, they did this deal with what was it? Dylan? I can't remember.
Dylan Mulvaney.
Yes.
You were
Dylan
really
Mulvaney.
close. Her name is Alyssa Heinerscheid.
Yeah. Heiner
I was
Scheid.
pretty close. I was pretty close. I knew
Mhm.
it was something like that. So they hired Dylan Mulvaney, thinking, "Oh, okay, well now we're gonna find this whole new audience." And just like Star Wars: The Acolyte and a lot of other, basically any weird production that Disney has done in recent years, you find out that there's actually no audience for this whatsoever. And not only is there no audience, you start annoying the people that actually maybe did like your brand. The people that are there and are willing to buy your car, you better hold on to them and try to build upon that, and not say like, "Oh, maybe all these gender neutral people want to buy Jaguar." They're not going to buy. I know one thing. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but usually that kind of 0.0001% of the world population that are in that category, they are not the ones that are going to buy your car.
Nope.
They have proven time and time again that the most they'll do is they'll go online, and if they see your commercial, they'll say, "You go, girl." But that's the most you'll get out of them. If you want money out of them, you're not going to get it. So
It's so good to see ourselves represented in the car
right,
buying market,
finally we can see each other
something,
on
and
screen. Yeah,
then they don't actually spend any money on.
and this isn't even something that
Oh,
you
we've
could say.
chased we've hurt Sean, and we've chased him off. The poor
Oh
thing.
no, he wanted to buy a Jaguar.
He did. He wanted it so bad, and now
Uh,
the dream is dead.
the dream is gone.
Are you looking? Is that the original post from
Yeah,
Jaguar you're looking at?
yeah.
Scroll to some of the comments.
They
They
said
are
copy nothing Jaguar. It's like, what does that even mean? Unless in your wait, Elon Musk answered.
it says, "Do you sell cars?"
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah, there were a couple of those that were like that. What am I looking at? What is this? And they gave back these real like cryptic responses. Like the one that they gave back to Elon Musk is, "Oh, we'll show you. Join us in Miami on the 2nd of December." And then there's other replies like, where are the cars? Is this for fashion?" this is a declaration of intent. Click on the declaration of intent. Look at the replies to that one.
I
Try to
think of
open a
this as
new
a
window.
declaration. Oh, this one?
The replies to the declaration of intent. I hope your intent wasn't to sell any cars.
Is the
And
intent
then
to
there's
make
another one a little
sunscreen?
bit further down that says something about your intent was to go bankrupt. Got it.
Your intentions are
It's just so bizarre that they did this. So if you actually go look at their website, I was wondering like if they actually had anything else to say about this. And so supposedly there's some more ads that are coming that are going to expand on what exactly is going on. But
unless like a bunch of dude bros come out and like drive like fast cars and all like look awesome, basically
wouldn't that be
crash this
hilarious?
party of whatever this is, and like the coolest people come out and they're driving the car. Unless something like interesting like that happens, this is a disaster.
Is that what I mean? Is some badass muscle car,
Right.
Jaguar comes riding out and chasing all of these people off? That would be
But
absolutely
you know what?
freaking hilarious.
Even if that was sort of nobody will ever believe them. I mean, if I'm now the CEO of Jaguar, I tell them in the next commercial, like you just said, these same people are standing there, and suddenly like all like the biggest giga chads arrive with like Jaguars, and all these people run away or something. And that's the only way. That's the only way you can maybe save face.
Yeah,
And
that would be like a new Coke level of manipulation at that
true.
point. Like we totally ruined it, but then we took it back. Supposedly what it says on their site, it says that to stay inspired. This is just the beginning, and then it says Jaguar is collaborating with a collective of original creators across the arts,
I
exploring
don't even
new
know what this means.
perspectives.
But this is the guy, Richard Slammer, who wrote, well, I hope your intent wasn't to sell any cars because I don't think you will with this crap. And I think that he, some of these things
Oh
are
no.
inappropriate.
Yeah. So if you're an inappropriate response, but yeah, it's just baffling. Like it feels so tone deaf as to everything that's happening in the world right now,
I
and a
mean,
lot of the changes that are happening in the culture at the moment.
the
It's just like,
thing that's strange
wow.
is that, like I said, whatever their intention was here, the second that if I was in charge and I'd see this, I tell them, do not release this. The fact that somebody sat there and said, yes, this is great, we have to release this thing, I think that's an issue. I mean, this really
Yeah.
not really reading the room, not
Yeah.
really reading your clientele, unless this is some big troll, but I don't think it is. I don't know, I'll give them the 1% chance that like that the follow-up to this will explain whatever this is, but I highly doubt it. Because
Yep.
I don't think they'd be that edgy that like the next like commercial you see, like this whole thing gets ridiculed, which I don't think that's what's gonna happen.
I mean, that would be an epic win if they did that, but I don't think that's where they're going.
I don't think it's where going either. That's the only way they can somehow pull out of this. But I don't
that would
think
just
so.
be an absolutely epic troll to do that. But yeah,
Right.
there's no way that's where
It could be like one of the biggest trolls ever, but I don't think they're gonna do it.
Yeah. Oh, just amazing. Yeah. But yeah, so many companies just struggling to kind of figure out like where they're going to go next now that it does, I think that the upcoming change in the presidency, the overwhelming support that was received by Trump and so many other candidates on the Republican side in this past elections, most recent election, that I think a lot of people in some different businesses are really trying to think about like, okay, what does this actually mean for us? Like, is this really like, is this all this DEI stuff actually toxic? Do we need to completely step away from this? Is this going to potentially ruin our business? Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people in many of these businesses that have been all in on DEI and everything else that are really questioning what they need to do next.
In many cases, a lot of these states were creating laws that would somehow benefit you if you did some of this DEI. I mean, again, maybe at some point there was some person with good intentions that said, well, we have to be more inclusive. And in and of itself, that's not a bad idea, but the execution of it was so poor and opened the door to so many bad things that whatever this idea was, I think it's a failure, especially with all these kind of DEI initiatives. You have states like California that they heavily incorporate into their laws that if you want to do business there, and you probably know that's even better than me, that if you want to do business there, like they expect certain things to happen. There's like certain kind of quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, like woke laws, and they're expecting you to deliver on those. And I think that this happened in a lot of states. And maybe it also ties to certain government initiatives, whether it's local or federal or whatever it is. But I think that with the election of Trump, there's kind of a feeling that the way that so many people voted for him and how he won, not just that he won, but the nature and the type of landslide that he won, there's kind of a feeling in this country that people are tired of this. And when I say people, I don't mean like a few white dudes. I think that people just in general have had enough of this.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. You say inclusivity. What's wrong with that? Nothing really.
Nothing. I mean,
I want people to feel like they belong. I want people to feel like they're accepted, like they're loved. I mean, that's good stuff. Here's the problem. It went from, well, let's just love everyone, let's accept everyone, to we are going to set down rules in our business. We're going to set down rules in our state or in our municipality or in our schools or whatever. We're going to set down rules. We're going to set down laws that make it so that if you don't, you're going to be punished. And we're also going to start making rules so that, well, if we're going to enforce inclusivity, well, we might as well enforce it in our hiring policies too. So now you got to make sure you have quotas of the right people. You got to have you got to hire the right people, because if you don't, you're going to be in violation of a law, or you're going to lose investors or whatever. Right. And so it moved from this, like, well, let's just kind of accept everybody kind of mentality to we're going to lay down the law and we're going to force you to accept things that were increasingly more and more extreme.
Have you
Right?
ever
not to
wondered where
mention.
that
So sorry, Sean. Go on.
Have you ever wondered where that mentality came from? Like you listen to the BlackRock guy that's like, we need to force behaviors, and it's like, well, where did this mentality start from? Like the 90s were doing pretty good for like leveling out the playing field. We still had our issues, but I knew so many effing white kids that wanted to be black growing up, and I feel like we
Oh,
were
yeah.
approaching a really good place. And then all of a sudden, after like 2011, everything went to crap. And then you hear like the BlackRock guy, and we need to force behaviors, and it's like, who the fuck, sorry, Price, gave you that authority? And like, what was your background to make you think that you're doing the right thing? Do you even think you're doing the right thing, or is everything that you're enforcing from a negative, like greedy, disgusting place? Like, I don't know how we got to this place where we're like, we need to bring back. I make jokes about us. They're always doing remakes, and I'm like, oh well, we brought back the '60s and civil rights, but we're gonna remake it and make it terrible. I'm like what possessed any of these people to enforce these things again? And it's like we were getting past them. Is it like a
Yeah, I mean,
purely political stance where it's like, oh no, we need to keep down a certain portion of the population, and the best way to do that is through racism? And it's like, was this all politically motivated in like the back rooms, or like where does this come from?
well, I mean, again, in the case of that guy, I don't like. I think his name Larry Fink or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
I
Fink.
I don't like the idea of forcing people to do something, and the fact that he
Right.
thinks that he can just say that publicly, and that's actually a good policy or a good idea. That I think is an issue, and I agree with you, Sean. In the '80s when I was a young kid, when I would turn on the TV, there were plenty of black people really taking center stage in
Mhm.
pop culture. Michael Jackson in the '80s, probably the biggest star of the '80s. Okay, you
Oh,
had
yeah.
Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, when it came to movies, one of the biggest stars. Maybe I can only think of a few names that were such household names as stars, as movie stars. I think of maybe Eddie Murphy. I think of people like Stallone, like Schwarzenegger, but it's not like that there were 70 Eddie Murphys. Eddie Murphy was a really, really big deal, so popular. And
Yeah.
again, I won't get into it because I know that it ended up that he seemingly wasn't a good person and all that. But even Mr. Pudding Pop Man with his TV show, you turned it on. That was like the number one show. You want sports, you turned it on. I know this already went into the 90s with Michael Jordan, but it started, I think, in the late 80s.
There was
Before
Bo
that,
Jackson.
what'd you say?
Bo knows Bo
Yeah,
Jackson.
Bo
Bo
Jackson.
knows
Right.
baseball.
He
Bo
was a
knows
phenom.
football.
In
My
almost,
favorite baseball player was Bobby Bonilla, and him and Barry Bonds on the Pirates were like the best thing ever.
I mean, Barry Bonds always looked like he took a lot of supplements.
Whatever.
but he was good. He was good. I won't take that away from him. But even other bands. I mean, in the 80s, you think of some of the names that were like the biggest stars there. Michael Jackson, of course, but even people like Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder. Actually, and I have to point out, really talented people too. In every kind of category that was really, really like center stage in pop culture, you had to say representation would be an understatement. And I don't think anybody sat around thinking, oh, he represents this, you represent that. I was a kid. I didn't think about any of this. I just thought to myself, I like these guys. And I think that there's nothing better than when things are done organically. When ceilings are broken, these kind of glass ceilings, because somebody is so talented that you can't, that they just transcend anything and just have that kind of following and that kind of popularity. I think that really it started to take shape in the 80s. I think it went on even a step further in the 90s. Whether it's music, whether it's hip hop, which is a whole genre that sort of was a huge influence on youth and things like that. Sports, movies, entertainment, everything. And I think that it went on and went on. And one of the good things about, I'm not going to lie and say that there's never any issues or there's never any kind of problems in society or that everything is perfect or there are no people. I mean, even today, and it has nothing to do only with Black people. It could be a lot of different people that there's sort of prejudice here and prejudice there.
Sure.
It's not a perfect place, the world, and there are people that are actually bad in it. But I will say that I feel like as a society, we were in the right direction. We were in a direction that things improved all the time. And I think that around 2020, when all that kind of summer of love happened, I think that anybody that was honest would say that the situation in 2020 was much different than what it was like 50 years earlier. It wasn't the same anymore. Could it be better? It could always be better. And when it comes to Hollywood, the thing that annoys me the most is, and I think I've said this before, I think that Hollywood themselves, with all their kind of elite, pompous lecturing us and all that kind of stuff, the decision makers there are the ones that maybe kept certain people out. But that really had nothing to do with us.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I'm like, is it all politically motivated? Is there some like smoky back room where like we need to keep a certain portion of the race or the population down that and bring this all back up again? It's getting too good for people.
Well, yeah, kind of. There's the World Economic Forum where a whole bunch of these ideas get transmitted between different groups and get communicated out to different extremely wealthy people.
I swear to God, if I was a James Bond character, they would be my first target.
Oh, well,
and that German asshole. Sorry, Price. I would wipe out that whole organization.
Oh, well, you know that Ernst Stavro Blofeld would be at the World Economic Forum. I mean, he'd be sitting there
He's
petting his
stroking a
cat.
But I think that there's this kind of a divide and conquer type of situation. I do feel that there were parties that thought to themselves, if everything is too good, then we can't really control the masses. We need to make people feel like victims. We need to make them feel like everything is so bad for them. And I again, am not saying that the world is perfect. And sure, there's things, there's instances where there are bad things, even along the lines of what we're discussing. There is istophobia in the world, or whatever you want to call it. But
Sure.
but I do think that we were getting better all the time, and there was progress. And there's nothing that beats real progress, and progress that's happening organically. To suddenly get up one day, like what happened there, and just to say, oh, these people have to be against these people, I don't really like that. And back to what I was saying about, and this will actually tie into our thumbnail. I probably have said it to you guys before. When Black Panther came out, when the MCU released Black Panther, I was really annoyed by their marketing. And part of the reason I was
Oh.
annoyed is because you had people like Kevin Feige, the MCU, CEO of Marvel for Disney. He would walk around and say, "Oh, finally, there's a black superhero." It's like,
Mm.
first of all, uh, Wesley Snipes was Blade,
Mm-hmm.
so whatever you're saying is, first of all, not true. Actually, without Blade succeeding, we may not even have a lot of other movies that
X-Men.
came afterwards. He was basically, case use. Is that the term I'm looking for? He was like, he was an example for how you can make money on these movies and how it's viable at the box office. I think that he left a lot of food for thought for people, making these kind of movies. I feel like Blade was before even the X-Men. It was
Yeah,
before Spider-Man.
it
So
was.
so really he was the OG. So the fact, and not only that, that's a Marvel character. So the fact that Kevin Feige would be standing around saying, "Oh, finally we have finally what?" You didn't do anything finally. And the only thing and this is the biggest hypocrisy, and I probably have told you guys this before, Kevin Feige was at least 10 years like the CEO of Marvel before that Black Panther thing was greenlit.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if it was so important to him, where was he for 10 years? Now, some could
Hmm.
say, oh, this guy didn't agree. That guy, he didn't have the support he did. I don't know. All I know is I am not Disney. I am not a multi-billion dollar corporation. I don't have billions of dollars to make movies, and I don't have the rights to Marvel. I know that they did, and if it was important to them, they could have made it. And they didn't make it.
Mhm.
Even later when, there was that kind of, "Oh, Oscar's so white, Oscar's so white." I mean, I don't make usually that's like a little clique of a club with all these Hollywood elites where the same, like, 30 people keep getting the same nominations every year, and they keep, like, sniffing each other's asses. That really had nothing to do with me also. I feel like every time there was something, it was like as if all of society is like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you see it in so many different places. You mentioned awards, and just immediately popped in my head was the speech that Ricky Gervais
He
gave.
he he was the best thing that ever happened
It was in-
at an
That
award
was
show.
incredible.
I mean, Ricky Gervais, it's not that I like every single thing he does or I'm like the biggest fan of everything. That speech, though, I have to say
Oh,
that is
just
the best.
yeah. Oh, just popping the pompous asses, just popping those balloons, and then popping their egos, just knocking them down a peg. It was amazing. Just be like, nobody cares about your political opinions. Nobody cares about this. Get up, thank your manager, thank your God,
And
and
another
get off the stage.
and another thing that, and I probably have said this before, that also even with the whole Me Too movement, basically they brought out a few examples. They're like, look at Mr. Pudding Pop Man, look at Harvey W., and look what they've done. And then they said, okay, all of men are like this. So, first of all, these two men were in Hollywood. They weren't just your average Joe. The other thing is, both Harvey W. and Mr. Pudding Pop, you can also apply it to Diddy and all this other stuff. These are people that have, I think Harvey and Mr. Pudding Pop had about $500 million each. So, not billionaires, but $500 million for each of those. Diddy is a billionaire. Once you have billions of dollars, that's a different league. That's not like a regular person. I guess what I'm trying to say is a regular guy now that's just, sitting around his home, just like an average Joe. If he wants to go out and like find like the biggest supermodels and tell them, hey, you either, spend the night with me or you don't get a contract for $20 million to be in a movie. He can say that if he wants, but nobody's going to care. You know what I mean? The reason why those guys were in the position where they were in, they had a lot of money and they had a lot of influence and a lot of power. And sometimes if it's a bad combination, if you're kind of have maybe an illness or something, and you're in a position like that, that's a really bad combination. But your average Joe, your average guy, was not that. Yet they use that to try to sort of quote unquote smash the patriarchy, to use that as an excuse to show how like men are bad and women are perfect.
And then one of their founding members goes and sleeps with an underage kid.
Wait, what? Which one?
What's her name? Oh crap! I'll have to look up her name. She was like one of the like biggest supporters of it. What is her name? She's like, her dad is like a big B movie director from
to be
Italy.
fair, I have to be fair in that case. This is really
Asia
controversial.
Argento.
I'm gonna get in trouble here. It's kind of controversial, but I have to.
Okay, sorry.
You said it, and I guess I have to somehow find my way navigating through this. Basically, I don't prefer that lady. She seems annoying and manipulative. I'll give you that. And yes, her father was, I think, a popular, Italian filmmaker of like horror stuff. She made like erotic movies or something like that. But I'm not a big fan of her for a few reasons. For starters, I don't want to. Again, this is really dark, a dark corner that we're.
I'm sorry if I put you on the spot.
It's okay. I'm going to navigate out of this dark corner, but I'll say that Anthony Bourdain was dating this woman. Okay, and what happened was there's a lot of bad actors within this equation. Once that whole movement took off, and that lady certainly capitalized on that movement and did whatever she did, which has its own issues. A young man that once acted with her in a movie that then, I guess when he was like maybe 17 and a half, they met up somewhere and they ended up spending the night together. Years later, he remembered that happened, and then he wanted to, quote unquote, he wanted to come forward and tell the public about what happened to him. Now, there's a few things here. This is going to sound terrible. And I don't know how to put this, but
that was a good setup, though. You're okay so far.
When you're 17 and a half, I don't know what the rules are exactly in the place that this happened. There are certainly certain places that I think at 17 it's not such a big deal. I also want to be honest. I'm thinking about people in my circles. I'm thinking if I'm now 17 and a half, 18 or whatever it is, and some dude tells me, hey, you know what? I just met this erotic film actress and we spent the night together. I don't think that like people in that kind of mindset, dudes that are kind of like 17 and a half, 18, I don't necessarily think that they're all going to be, taking out tissues and weeping. I think I can't speak for how it is with women. I think that guys, especially if it's in a state, let's say that there's consent at that age, generally a guy that's like comes in and says, hey, I spent the night with an erotic film actress. That's probably...
It's less weeping and more high fives.
Less weeping and more high fives.
Generally, yes.
And also, from the way I understood it, it wasn't a situation that he was like deceived or something. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like he knew what was going on and seemed to be happy with whatever was going on. Now, what this guy did, though, essentially, this is just my impression. I'm not an expert. I'm just giving my own impression here. I don't think that the whole situation that he spent the night with her bothered him, and I don't think it bothered him for many years. It's just when this whole movement came out, somebody, I think, told him, hey, you can probably squeeze a few dollars out of her. And then he basically went to her, not to the press, not to the papers, not to anything. And he went and he said something along the lines of, you did that with me years ago, and that's a big, big trauma for me. You're gonna have to pay me. So if I'm not mistaken, she then went to Anthony Bourdain, who was her boyfriend, and said, hey, this guy is bothering me because of what happened years ago, and he wants something from me. So, and again, I have no way of proving it. This is speculation. Please don't hold me accountable. I'm just giving my own personal opinion here. I believe that Anthony Bourdain, in order for this thing to go away, somehow cut this guy a check and said, listen, kid, he's not a kid anymore now. He's like, 100, but whatever. He's just like, He's like, your trauma, you had so much trauma. Here's a check, dude. Here's a check, and now fuck off. Sorry, Sean. So he gave him the check, and the guy, I think, like, disappeared. But then I guess he thought to himself, maybe I can get more money. And then maybe he
Oh,
wanted more money, and maybe they didn't give him a check. And at this point, he went to the press to try to sell this story. Now, meanwhile, she also, instead of kind of being grateful that Anthony Bourdain was even trying to help her, she kind of turned her back on him. And suddenly in the press, it kind of looked like he was paying off this guy. I'm speculating, okay? I don't know. You could research this thing. I just vaguely remember something. I think that all of this drove Anthony Bourdain off the deep end. I think
well,
that
there's
probably getting involved with this lady and in this weird situation, and she didn't even really, I don't know if to say she didn't like him, but he wasn't even rewarded for trying to help this lady. I
yeah,
mean,
and there
don't
was
get
like
me
a
wrong. She herself doesn't need to get any rewards here either. I mean, if you're a grown woman, maybe you don't find like a 17 and a half-year-old guy or a guy, he was right before his 18th birthday or whatever it is. I think that, you have better things to do as a grown woman than do this. But at the end of the day, I think that the person that lost the most out of this whole situation is Anthony Bourdain. And maybe
yeah.
we lost
Mhm.
because he seemed like a decent guy and he probably thought he was doing the right thing. But suddenly, from doing the right thing, he became an accomplice in some weird situation, and she wasn't even nice to him. So
Yeah.
that's my impression. If you guys know anything about it, you can comment.
Well, there was also there was a Joe Rogan thing back when I was listening to Joe Rogan back in the day a lot, and he was talking about Anthony Bourdain, and he was like, he sounds so in love. He's like, I love this girl. She's the world, and then and then all that happened, and it was over. So,
Mhm.
uh, I will say that this is why I tune into your channel, Price, for the nuance of opinion. I think you have you're the most clear, and like where all the rest of us are like, ah, no, it's this way. You're like, no, no, here's other factors to consider, and I'm always appreciative of that.
I mean, I'm trying to be honest. If I'm now like I'm transporting myself like in a Back to the Future way or quantum leap into myself when I'm like 17 years old, 17 and a
Mm-hmm.
half or close to 18. I think the guy was just short of being 18 at the
He was
time.
he was 2 months past 17 years old,
Okay.
and the alleged assault took place in California, where the age of, consent is 18. So technically, it would have counted as statutory, rape, and, yeah, seems there was a non-disclosure agreement that she arranged, with this guy for $380,000, after she made, the allegations against, Harvey.
At
So
the
Right.
same at the same time, as a young man growing up, like part of me understands that stupid mentality of being a young growing boy, and you're like, yeah, corrupt me, baby, corrupt me.
yeah.
I mean, all I know is, and I don't know about laws, and I just know like men or whatever it is. I'm thinking I'm 17 plus and hanging out with people my age. I honestly believe that if somebody walked in and said, like I just said, I just spent the night with an erotic film star.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
I can't imagine that doesn't end in high fives.
yeah, dude, I banged a porn star.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I
sweet.
mean, it's like I don't
Yeah.
really. You'd be hard pressed. I don't know. Maybe in today's society it's different. I don't really know. I'm thinking that in the place that I was at, I think you'd be really hard pressed to have like a situation where people bring out violins and say, "Oh, do you need your safe space now?" I don't think that would have been the conversation. I think that people would have been like, "Dude, that's probably the only the only thing that would have been said there." I think that maybe that doesn't absolve her from what she did. I mean, she's a grown
Yeah,
woman and she doesn't have to be
Yeah.
stupid. There's
sure.
probably other things she can do than spend the night with a 17-plus-year-old person. There are states that, by the way, that probably would have been legal. She just chose the one place that probably it isn't legal. But there are states that I think 17 is considered legal. She just didn't go to one of those places.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying she didn't seem like a great person either. It's not that I'm saying that like she needs to get all these awards now for being such a great person. But I don't think that he really felt traumatized as much as he saw an opportunity. I mean, $380,000 for this is, man, I don't know. I mean, this is also, again, a situation where it's not like she deceived him into this spending the night with her. He seemed very eager at that time in his life to spend the night with her, and he did, for whatever it's
Yeah.
worth. And then
Yeah.
later to come and collect
Yeah,
380,000.
it depends on which statements of his you wanna listen to and you wanna believe. In some statements, he said that, he was sort of forced into this, that it was an older, older woman who was, making demands of him, and so he complied. It doesn't really sound particularly logical, but I suppose that could happen.
Anything is
You
possible.
know
He has the law on his side. I won't take
Yes,
that away
he
from him.
did.
In the place that he was at, he could claim that's why he got the money. But I would, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not saying you have to agree with me or not agree. I tend to think that that guy, years later, it's not so much that he remembered it and he thought that he had so many traumas from it. I think that he remembered that he could get a lot of money because somebody advised him to do that, and he actually did get money, signed an NDA, but then he wanted more money. That's what I think the problem started. And at the end, I think that ultimately this had at least some kind of contribution, and this is my personal opinion, to the death of Anthony Bourdain.
That's the worst part.
That's the
Yeah.
worst part, that I think he
Oh,
got
yeah.
caught up in this, and I don't know if he even
Kind of
understood what was going on or what he got caught up in. And again, this lady, it's not like she was such a great spouse to him. I feel like he helped her, and she didn't even fully appreciate it, or I
Yeah.
don't know, other things were going on there. And I feel like that's what kind of drove him off the deep end, unfortunately.
It
Now,
might have been the last straw,
right. I mean, at the end of the day, I also, even with all these people, with her and with this kid that are annoying, I can't put the fact that however he, his life ended, I can't put that all on them, because at the end he's a grown man and he made the
Mm.
decisions that he made. But let's just say that, again, both of these people, in my opinion, didn't deserve any big awards either. And I'm talking about her and the kid. He's probably, like I said, he's like 100 now, but you know what I mean.
I'm so sorry to derail whatever train of thought you had that got us onto this. I apologize.
Oh, yeah, that's what we do here, Sean. We just go on random rabbit trails, and eventually we find one that leads us back to what
All
we
of that
intended
is
to
probably
talk
going to get
about.
me in trouble somewhere.
No,
But
you're fine.
again,
You've got all the nuance. I'm totally on the F her train, but then you're like, no, let's consider other things. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah,
Price is the voice of reason.
yeah.
it's an overall crappy situation. I think she's crappy, and I think that the kid is crappy, really. And like I said,
Mhm.
if I had to give my bottom line here, it's really kind of a shame that somehow Anthony Bourdain was in the orbit of all of this nonsense and pulled into it. But what's done is
Mhm.
done. And we were talking about Hollywood and how they wanted to pin all of this on regular, just everyday men. And I think that was really the problem, because I think I've said it before. If you work at a gas station, okay, and there's a sign that says "Help Wanted," okay, and a lady walks in and you're offering her, a minimum wage job to work a cash register, like the night shift in the middle of the night when there's probably like robbers there every second, and you tell her, "Listen, you can only get this job if you spend the night with me." I think that generally speaking, you don't have enough leverage that the person, coming in for a job like that will say, "Sure, I'll do anything for this job." I think that a woman hears this, she goes to another gas station and hopes maybe they need help wanted there. You know what I mean? It's not, you're not in that kind of position that you can do whatever you want. On the other hand, if you're like the king of Hollywood, like the kingmaker, you decide, there's certain actresses that may or may not have done something with Harvey W. And they went from making $5, tips an hour, I don't know what, to making $20 million a year. When you have that kind of power, that is a whole different story. And I think that nuance, when all of that scandal came out and people were like, well, all the men are like that. No, they're not like that. They couldn't, even if they wanted to. Even if, let's say, there's a lot of sinister, terrible men out there that wanted to be that, they still couldn't be that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think that nobody ever had that conversation. And the other thing is that people didn't have the conversation is that the ladies aren't perfect either. Uh, this idea that suddenly from 2017, everything that a woman does is perfect and she never did anything wrong, and women are always right, and you should believe everything they said, and you're stupid. That's also a dumb thing. Uh, I I can say, from personal experience, that I've seen situations that would really refute this kind of narrative, especially in terms of like the Me Too movement. I've seen things, and even things that have to do with entertainment. I've seen things that would refute these arguments. Um, Again, I don't know how we got to this dark place. We're going to get out of here really soon. But
Let's
for example, Mariah Carey. And I'm sorry, again, this is just my personal opinion. I don't have any proof. I'm just speculating.
yeah.
Mariah Carey. Do you know the story about Mariah Carey? So
Not in
basically,
particular.
do you know, Professor?
No, not particularly. No.
Okay, so basically, there was a guy at Sony. Okay, I think his name was Tommy Mottola, and he was like 500 years old. He was basically like the big shot, the big honcho, where he decides, which artists succeed or don't, or I don't know what. So he had a girlfriend called, I believe, and again, please don't, again, disclaimer. This is speculation. It could be imaginary. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to say what I believe. He had a relationship with a woman called Brenda K. Starr, who was kind of a singer that he was building up. Maybe she even has like a hit or two or some song that half a person knows. And her backup singer was Mariah Carey. Okay, so one day Mariah Carey, apparently, rumor, legend, myth, rumor, went to a party with Brenda K. Starr, who was dating this Tommy Mottola guy. And when Brenda K. Starr went to the bathroom or something like that, Mariah Carey grabbed that Mottola guy, gave him a cassette because she was her backup singer, gave her a cassette of her own, and said some things to him that must have really gotten him excited about her career.
Hmm.
And then suddenly, Tommy Mottola was no longer with Brenda K. Starr. Now he was with Mariah Carey, and they pushed her in a way that you've never seen in your life. And really, like,
Hmm.
they would just she. Now you could say, well, she had some talent, she could sing, maybe, but I mean, she saw an opportunity, she took it, and then she suddenly was, at the top of the charts nonstop, and like they kept putting out more albums with all their like muscle, with all the stations, and with all of their tactics of like getting an artist out there. She became their highest priority. I think, I don't know if to say it was Sony. I could be wrong, and I apologize. I don't know what I'm talking about, and this is all imaginary, and I'm speculating. I think it was Sony.
Yeah, I think it's with Sony
I
at the
think
time.
I
Yeah.
think your
So
bases are covered.
what'd you say? I've covered all my bases. Anybody
Yeah,
listening to this show, everything that I've said for the past maybe 30 minutes, pure
entirely. You could
It's
have
all
just
its
said
illusion. It's
allegedly.
okay.
it's all an illusion.
It's
It's
allegedly.
allegedly, it's pure speculation. I probably am wrong about every single thing that I said, but I think that he was working for Sony, and then he made her the number one star in the world. And I guess what I'm saying in this whole situation is, he, she made the move. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess what I'm saying, that in those days, or whatever you want to call it, there were also situations that there were women who were actively thinking, "Oh, this guy is some executive. Maybe I can do something that this guy will now put me on the thing." Now you can say that it wasn't a fair system, that she even would have to do that. But I don't know what's fair and what's not. There were men that maybe were abusing their position, but there were certainly women that were thinking, "Hey, I look pretty good. Maybe there's something that I can do that will, put me in that position."
As an old man, I find it very hilarious now, looking back on my life, that I ever thought that I could entertain a career in movies or animation or anything with all the underhanded backstabbing that is so like prevalent throughout all those industries. I'm way too much of a nice guy for that.
It's totally, and really, there were sort of times, especially in New York City, that I went to some events of, this is years ago, but that I went to events and that I saw people that were sort of in the, I don't know if to say like aspiring actors and actresses and things like that. And I was even at like a party, parties. It wasn't just once that you had somebody walk in and they're like, "Oh, this is a big director," again, it wouldn't even be a big director. It would be probably a director that, nobody knows who he is. Nobody cares. He probably did some crap that nobody cares about. But there were women at the party that were immediately like, okay, there's a big director here. How do I, cozy up to him? And I've seen certain things happen and play out in real time. This is stuff that it's not speculation. I saw it myself with personally. I saw this happening where like a woman is like, maybe one that even looks good, thinking, oh, well, there's a director here.
It's so
You know what I
sad.
mean?
It's so sad. It's
And
not about
really
the art.
acting upon that. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think it was the type of industry where a lot of, and especially you think about the 80s and maybe some of the 90s, people
Mm.
were going to a lot of parties in this industry, a lot of, doing a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and you have these kind of parties where everybody's, doing all this stuff. I think the atmosphere was very different. The atmosphere on sets was very different. The atmosphere in
Mhm.
this industry was different. And you could say it's good, you could say it's bad, maybe it's inappropriate, and maybe it was inappropriate all across the board. Maybe there were bad faith actors, whether it's men or women. But I think that, the 2017 movement that sort of wanted to frame this narrative wasn't really taking into consideration certain things that happened in reality.
Mhm.
That's not to say that there weren't bad people that did bad things. I'm just saying that it was a very kind of narrow framing of what they want to tell you is going on without really looking at it a bit more objectively, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I have no idea how we got here.
I don't know
apologize.
how we got here either. You cornered me into this weird situation, and now let's
I
get
did
out of
not.
here.
I feel bad. I feel
Pull the
bad every
ripcord.
time I open my mouth. I'm like, I'm gonna make Price have to compensate for some dumb nonsense
I don't know
I'm
how we
saying.
got here. I don't
Hit
know
the
how we got
ejector
here,
seats. What can
but what'd you say?
hit the ejector seat. Pull the ripcord. Something.
But
Next thing.
back to our thumbnail to kind of try to circle
Hey.
back to whatever we were talking about. Speaking of Hollywood and weird politics and agendas and weird things, what I was thinking, and this is what we started off, that ever since Trump won, I was kind of thinking to myself, who the biggest loser is? Who's the person that, if the biggest winner this year is probably Donald Trump, and I don't care if you voted or didn't vote for him, or you like him, you don't like him. I think that it's undeniable is that as a even pop culture figure, the biggest winner of this year is Donald Trump. Uh, he defied any narrative, any odds, any whatever it is, and he just came and took the elections in almost unprecedented landslide. That he just took every group that people said that people wouldn't vote for him, swing states, everything. It's not just like a mild win or by the skin of his teeth. Like this was a real win. And if he's maybe like the biggest winner of the year, I was trying to think to myself, and I think that possibly, quite possibly, the biggest loser of the year is Disney CEO Bob Iger. And I'm going to tell you why, because Bob Iger, and this goes back a number of years, Bob Iger is the one that took Disney and made it very political. He injected all of that kind of, woke agenda. He was one of its, biggest champions. He even, prior to 2020, I think there was a time that he was considering running. Possibly it would have been like somebody like him running against Trump. He wanted to run for president. I
Is
don't know
that
if you
yeah.
remember that.
Was that
Yeah.
in like his memoir or something? Do we have like official confirmation of that? Because I've heard that said like everywhere, but
Professor, what do you know about this? I think he wanted to be president.
I've definitely heard that from numerous sources, but I'm not sure where the rumor or where the original information came from. Curious. Okay, I might try and look something up, but
I mean, I assume
it's
it
my
was his
understanding that
memoir.
yes, the weatherman wanted to be wanted to be president.
So yeah, I think he wanted. This is a rumor that you want to call it a rumor again. I'll say speculation, but I think it's more than that. I feel like even if we Google like news sources, this guy had his sights on possibly doing a run for president, and really, during the up until maybe 2018-19, the guy was Disney's golden boy. Everybody seemingly liked him. He bought all these IPs that Disney was making a ton of money. Uh, he if he would have retired in something like 2018, 2019, until now, his reputation would be, even if you liked him or not, just the public perception of him would be amazing. I mean, I don't think people sat around like saying bad things about him or anything. Like he could walk around like a huge success. I think. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
when he stepped away from from his role at Disney, he did an interview with Variety where he talked about it. But I guess it did come from his book that he wrote. It was in his book. That Variety was asking him, saying, "I was surprised how serious you once were about running for president. Are politics off the table now?" And he says, "They are."
Well,
2021.
even if you Google Bob Iger wants to run for president, there's like 10 articles that are
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think it was something that he recounted, something that he talked about in his, I think it was his biography, right?
sure.
Was it his
Yeah.
biography?
That right of a lifetime or
he
whatever.
certainly
Yeah.
was very, very obsessed with politics. And I think that unfortunately this got injected. He saw himself as this kind of savior, but
Yes.
he's bringing all these great politics into Disney. He's so progressive. I do think that he had a personal agenda here, but in addition, he just thought that this was a great direction to go in. And
That's so
when it
crazy to me. Like, you're the head of a multimedia company, and to think that you can parlay that into, I don't know if parlay is the right word. You can like shift that into being the president of the United States. That's such an insane mentality or thought process to me. Maybe it's not so crazy to people that know how to do that, but
Yes. And you did use the word correctly, Sean.
okay, thank you. I know it means to talk or chat or have a conversation.
Well, you're using some advantage you have to get something better than what you already have.
Oh, okay.
You're
I was
sort of
purely
trading one thing for something better.
I was honestly operating under the terms of Pirates of the Caribbean.
It means the same thing.
Okay, good.
And first of all, his whole departure. He departed during that time. His whole departure from Disney is weird. I
Yeah.
actually have a theory that nobody has ever spoken about before. For why how suddenly in 2020, as the coup was breaking out, and it hadn't really reached the United States in a way that it was really impacting the U.S. yet, but already he must have known what was going on in places like China because
Oh,
of
of course.
Disney's operations
Oh
there.
yeah, he knew.
He knew,
Yeah.
and he quickly, suddenly, seemingly out of the blue, suddenly resigned, became, appointed a successor, and at the same time also, became the chair of the executive board or whatever it is, chairman of the board. The thing is that when all of that was happening, I think people were really puzzled. Uh, Professor, and I don't know, this is just random. Before I say what I think, do you have any idea why he bailed, why he wanted to stop being the CEO at that time?
Well, I think there was some pressure from inside the organization. I think to find a successor, to find somebody else to run. He had been doing it for 15 years, I think, at that point. So they were looking, perhaps for some new blood or something like that. But I also think that I mean, I don't think that Bob Iger is an idiot. I don't think he's particularly talented. I don't think he's particularly great at like planning things out over long periods. But I don't think he's dumb. I think he was seeing a lot of stuff going on in the world. He was seeing a lot of the political change that was around. He was seeing a lot of the changes that were going on in Disney and with media and streaming growing the way it was, and it was seeing the potential challenges that they would be facing going forward, and made a decision that maybe I'm not going to be the one in charge when when a whole
When the
bunch of this
coup
stuff falls apart, right?
when the coup
Um,
hits the fan.
yeah, well, and the streaming wars and all of this other stuff that was coming down the road, that I'm going to step back and let that all be under someone else's watch, right? Um, and he was remaining in a position of power at Disney, since he was going to remain on the board. Hell, he got to keep his office with his shower. I mean, it's not like he was really stepping down in the same way that a typical CEO would, and walked away from it.
No, it
So
was almost like Putin. He didn't want to leave. He just wanted to stay and to pretend that he's here, but he's actually there. Which brings me to the reason why I think that he left right before the coup became a big issue in the U.S. and was already starting to in China. You know, and this is just my opinion, again, speculation. I'm probably wrong. This is what I think. But you know why I think that he chose that moment to leave? And I don't think anybody's ever talked about this. Do you want to hear my opinion?
yeah,
Eh.
Okay. I
Sean's,
suspect.
nonplussed.
What did Sean say? No, I don't want to hear
It's eh.
it. So basically, what I believe that happened to Bob Iger is that he may have had a clause in his contract that when he, as somebody like a CEO of this big company like Disney, when he steps down, from that moment, sometimes you have situations where they have these type of executive clauses where they say, okay, as kind of a exit bonus or whatever you want to call it, we'll give you an average of the prior 3 years prior to your departure, the average you know profit, that based on that you get your bonus. We're going to take it from like the last 3 years from the day you departed. So up until that moment, the few years leading up to it were great. Disney were making a ton of money and everything was great. And maybe he looked at his bonus and he thought to himself, well, if I wait now and do this whole coup thing, who knows? I'll leave. First of all, if I leave in the middle of the coup or later on, who knows how much money is going to come in here? That could affect my bottom line, because if there's an average of the past 3 years or the past few years, well, now my average is going to get lower. Do you get what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
Yes. My question is, when you already have the world, how important is that money to you?
You know what?
Um,
When a guy makes like $50 million a year in bonuses or whatever it is that he
yeah.
was making, I
Mhm.
think that starts becoming relevant. It's not relevant to you and I, but the type of guy that already has hundreds of millions of dollars is probably the same type of guy that's not going to want to part from another 50 or so.
Yeah.
So, I occasionally talk to my father sometimes because I feel like, especially in the last 10 years, with all the political and uh, big tech type people, I'm constantly shocked at people's uh, obsession with the concept of power. And I wonder how much of Bob Iger, like, you make $50 million a year, that over several years, that means nothing to you at some point. That's just the standard. So what do you turn to next? You're like, I want control. I want to be president. I want to have an effect on the masses. And so like how much is a bonus going to affect your decision making over the idea of having control over
It
people?
was maybe a combination. Maybe the fact that he thought that if he bows out now, his image is better. He doesn't have to stay during the coup. Like, he's not the guy in charge,
Oh, sure.
supposedly. At the same time, he took that executive board position. Plus, I think there was a financial reason, something that we don't know because we're not privy to his contract. I do
Hmm.
believe that. I believe that he had something in his clause that when he leaves, they take the last 3 years, do an average, and let's say that the 3 years prior, whatever bonuses he got, he gets like an average of that bonus, or something along those lines. And I think there was a financial reason, an image reason, and at the end he stayed as executive chairman. And look at who he chose as his successor. It's almost like he knew he chose a guy that wasn't really right for it. Almost wanting him to be overshadowed by Iger. It's like
But that
Iger wanted to
guy,
overshadow him with this executive chairman role. The only problem is that I think that Bob Chapek started uh, going off script.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think he started flexing his muscles a little too much, and kind of acting on his own initiative, and Bob was not happy about that.
I'm just curious about, like, what level do you have to reach where your legacy and your hubris take precedent
He,
over
he's he's
all
just like,
else?
ego off the charts. This guy.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you look at his book and how he treated George Lucas and all that stuff, you could tell this guy's ego is just off the charts. I will give him. You were saying, Professor, that he maybe not the smartest guy. I don't know. I don't know if smart. I would say that he's this kind of slick. He is kind of like a slick bureaucratic politician type. He knows how to work the system. He has, because of the weatherman thing. What do weathermans do? They kind of smile and they're soothing and they kind of wink and smile at you. That's what he's been doing for like 70 years, and I guess he's good at it. I mean, he took that kind of weatherman charm and he's been going
Yeah.
around and he really kind of wowed people and he managed to find his place there.
That's so
I can't.
crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think I'd rather have the weatherman that did the pumpkin dance. I'd rather have him in charge of
I'd rather
Disney.
have the Argentinian women.
Well, that would your terms are acceptable. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is, so that whole thing happened, and then Bob Iger came back, and I think really when he came back, he had a chance maybe to read the map and see what was going on with Disney, especially after what happened with all that so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill, which was a bunch of nonsense,
Mhm.
and how they were getting into fights there with the Florida governor, with DeSantis and all that stuff. He had a chance, and even when he got there, he was seemingly saying, "No, we have to be entertaining," but at the same time he wasn't really doing anything actively to try and get rid of all these activists. He was very much still encouraging them, and I think that he still thought to himself that Disney are just in charge, that the left are in charge, that he is well liked and has all the influence that he needs. And this is where I think this hubris you talk about, Sean, really led him to make some mistakes. And it's so weird how all of the mistakes that he made led to a chain reaction that at the end of the day not only presented him as such a big loser, maybe the biggest loser, it also kind of helped pave the way for Trump to even be president. As much as that's crazy, Bob Iger himself, if there's like a movie about Trump's rise, Bob Iger has some kind of, you know, role here,
Yeah,
indirectly or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
So basically, let's first of all start off, and it's weird because we saw this, I say, the three of us, while it was happening, the firing of Gina Carano. I think that anybody that was around in our corners of the internet knew at that moment what a big deal that was. And it's not because necessarily it was more than a character or an actress. No, I think that Gina is very likable, but it went beyond all of that. I think that the idea that there were people that were her cast members that were basically posting these kind of World War II imagery, actually in a way that I think is far more, disrespectful, because they were basically saying, especially Pedro Pascal, he had that meme that he was sharing, that the people that voted for Trump were basically German mustache man enthusiasts. He had
Mhm.
a
mhm.
meme, and he also used imagery and did some things, and nobody said a word to him. And she actually posted something which she wasn't making that kind of suggestion. She wasn't calling people that. She was just stating a historical fact and just stating that, she feels that she is being sort of delegitimized. Now, I've always said this and I'll say it again. I wouldn't have used that specific analogy. I think that if I needed to use an analogy, I would have used a reverse McCarthyism. I would have said that Hollywood are always whining to this very day about how McCarthy did all this bad stuff for them, but they're all whining when it's bad stuff happening to them, when they go around and they demonize people that they don't agree with in a way that resembles what they claim that they don't like. They don't see an issue with that.
Well, you need a dramatic. It was probably a Batman movie that was like you need dramatic examples to shake people from their apathy. So if you are going to reference something where you're like, we dehumanize a particular portion of the population, like there, unfortunately, because we've so many people have used the schnazzy type of reference that it starts to lose meaning. But like that is the most dramatic example from the last 80 years that people understand and will respond to. So like Gina reposted that thing saying it took making it normal in society to dehumanize people for it to become normal. And I I understand that. I feel like
She didn't lie in the sense, I'll tell you this, there were 2 things happening in her post that were actually true. One,
Okay,
the historical evidence, whatever she was saying, about how, Jews were treated in Germany prior to the war, all of that
sure.
was true. She didn't make up any of that. That was 100% true what she wrote. The fact that
Hmm.
she in Hollywood is being treated like a, sort of, delegitimized, and they're making her, like, not a person there, she
Yeah.
was right about that as well. Connecting in between these 2 things, personally, if I were in her shoes, I wouldn't have
Oh,
connected them. That's me personally. At the same time, stepping away from what I would do or what I wouldn't do, when I look at what Pedro Pascal did, when I look at what Mark Hamill does, and the way
sure.
they use this type of imagery and the things that they've said, first of all, her thing was not attacking people. She didn't call half of America German mustache man, something
Yeah,
that Pedro Pascal absolutely did. The fact that he called half of America German mustache men and used imagery to enhance his ideas,
mm.
far worse than anything Gina posted. Yet nobody would say a word from him to him, because in Disney they appreciate those kind of politics. I think that that's the bigger issue here.
I don't.
And
Did I misunderstand though? Was she referring to that historic thing also in relation to her being canceled? Because I thought she just posted that, and then
she was
as a
basically,
result,
no, I think what she posted was that it gave it some historical information that was accurate, and then I think that the final part of that post was like, how is that different when somebody wants to voice an opinion and people won't let them, or something like that.
okay,
Now, I think that one could still argue that what she was talking about that was going on in 1930 something in Germany in 1933 wasn't exactly what she was going through in Hollywood. I
yeah,
won't say, it's not to dismiss the fact that she was right that they wouldn't let her say her opinions. They were indeed delegitimizing her. It's just not exactly a one to one. It's sort of in my opinion, just personal opinion, because of the context of what she was referring to historically. I feel like it was a bit of an apples and oranges situation. Not that her oranges were not justified. It's not that whatever she was complaining about wasn't justified. I just may have gone away, like, about it a different way to explain it. But
sure.
uh, she used that analogy. I absolutely don't think that, especially after what Pedro Pascal did and Mark Hamill and others like them, which was far worse in my opinion. I
Oh,
think that what they did to her was not that they just
Yeah.
fired her. They wanted to make sure that the public knew that they're humiliating her.
Absolutely, yeah. So the whole timeline of all the stuff that happened with her really started in 2020. First of all, people were angry at her because she didn't publicly support BLM. So that was, oh, that's not okay. You're not, coming out to support that. And then she had also faced some criticism for some posts that were deemed as phobic, right? And that's where the whole thing with wanting to drag her into struggle sessions and whatnot had taken place. That was, there was the things with the pronouns, beep, bop, boop, pronoun thing, whatever, that had upset a bunch of people. Oh, you hurt our feelings so much because you didn't respect our pronouns, and it was, just absurd, of course. And then in 2020 during the election, people were quite upset that she was supporting Donald Trump at the time. She had not had sort of a publicly, uh, said, I'm voting for him, you should, whatever, but had made several, different posts that sounded very, very much in support of everything that he was saying. When, after the everything started with the coof, then she had made some posts that were anti-mask, you know, stuff. I think I remember saying something about, she was like, you should wear a blindfold along with your mask so you can't see
uh,
what people are doing to
If
you or whatever. And
as a person that tries his best not to live his life on the internet, I mostly just took that one post as just a stating of fact. If we
yeah,
dehumanize any particular
yeah,
group, all the
yeah,
rest of it, I could be completely wrong, but that's just
yeah.
how
So
I took it.
that was in February of 2021 when that took place,
Right.
where there was the post that she made saying, that Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but their neighbors. She went on from there, right, talking about that,
Which wasn't
and
a
that was
lie. That part
no,
is
it absolutely wasn't a lie.
it's
No,
absolutely accurate, historically correct. She wasn't wrong in what she was saying. The only thing that one could argue, and I always think that I think that people toss around too much the whole German mustache man and all the context of what happened in prior to World War II in Germany and during World War II. I think that people too quickly always want to apply that to so many things that they see today. I personally, I am not. That's not. I don't prefer that myself. At the same time, when I saw the post, I didn't think to myself, "Oh, Gina is a bad person." I thought to myself, "Okay, well, that's something that she said. She first of all is in her right to say whatever. I mean, it's freedom of speech. She can say it, and I
absolutely.
don't think that she said it in a way that she was attacking anybody. She was just trying to say how she's, feels very delegitimized within Hollywood, which she had every right
Mm.
to feel because she was going to places and they kept trying to tell her, we don't like your opinion, you better shut up or say that you like our opinions and agree with us, which is something that I think a company shouldn't be doing to a person. You can't,
Mhm.
you have to have a unified policy. Either nobody can talk about their political opinions online and you're just, you sell the product and that's it, or everybody can say whatever they want. You can't have that, like, all the people that say the wackiest stuff in a certain direction of politics that you like, that you just, overlook everything. And then one woman posts a few tweets, and what did she really even do? What, she said that, people are wearing too many masks. I mean, even today, I think a lot of people know that in many cases those masks weren't especially helpful. I would say that if you had a mask, this is just my opinion. Not science. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think if you had, there were a few types of masks that I think if you wore them, maybe they had some effect. But a lot of those kind of masks that people would just put like a handkerchief on their face, that didn't do anything.
Yeah, those were always useless, and even
Right.
even funnier. That I was teaching at that time, and of course we had all sorts of restrictions about students have to wear masks and teachers have to wear masks and all of this stuff. Well, it was like I would look out into the room and I would see 30 students in the room or so, and yeah, they're wearing masks. Most of them were wearing it on their chin or not
Mm.
covering their nose,
Yeah,
whatever.
kids don't
So
want that.
completely and totally useless. I mean, these are college students. They're not stupid, but they didn't want to wear the mask any more than anyone else did, and it made it impossible to teach up in front of a classroom wearing a mask and trying to speak into a microphone or trying to talk to everybody. It was absurd. It was ridiculous, and
I
it was all just this imposed stuff to say, well, make sure you're reminding your students to wear the mask. I'm like, I'm not going to tell my students to wear the freaking mask when they're in my classroom. They can do it or not. They're adults, right?
All
It's
this stuff,
so dumb.
all this stuff really makes you long for the days when Hollywood had their didn't have social media and all their stars were on
Oh
lockdown.
God, yes. I
Back in
mean,
like the 40s and 50s where they were controlling everything they said.
oh, that's how we've talked about that recently, Sean. We were talking about how the stars, we used to have these movie stars. They were
Yeah.
they were glamorous and they were enchanting. Some of them were mysterious. And
And if you
now
saw
we
them
just
on like Carson, you'd be like, I need to watch
oh
this.
yeah, oh yeah, I
And then
gotta
you
go.
add on to that how movies were made. We did models. We blew up model effects, and we did makeup effects. And
Yeah,
Hollywood was so effing
it
amazing.
was
Sorry,
so
Bryce.
cool and fascinating, and now we just know every time they go to the
Oh
bathroom because they
God, I
tweet it
can't
out to let
stand
us know
it.
what color their turd was.
Right. I
I
mean,
mean, it's
uh,
absurd.
there was more mystery, but before I
Yeah,
lose my train of thought with
sorry.
this thing, uh, we were talking about Gina Carano and her firing. First of all, I guess, what did she said something about mass? She said it seemed like she was. I don't even think she bluntly said she was even voting for Trump. I think it was implied that she was, but I
Yeah,
don't.
she just some things that were mildly sort of in support of various, various different things that
Being
she
in
supported.
support of a candidate, saying that you think, and I think that the meme that I remember she had was there was like a person that had 7 masks on their face. I think I don't care if you like mask or not. I think that the meme was rather amusing.
Mhm.
I don't think it was meant to offend anybody. I think that a person that has 7 masks on their face, I think that's kind of funny. and I don't think it was a big deal. The part with the pronouns that they always talk about, that was also some nonsense in my opinion. Basically, people were bothering her online because Pedro Pascal, and again, it always goes back to that. Sorry, Sean, to that asshole. In my opinion, is that he decided that he wanted to show how woke he is and how he loves gender neutral people, or I don't know what he was doing. So in his name, if he wrote Pedro Pascal, next to it he put his pronouns, he, him, or something like that. And then people were saying, look what an ally he is. Look what an ally is to trans people. And why aren't you, Gina? Why aren't you an ally to them? And then I think the people were bothering her, and we know how this thing works. We've encountered some of these type of activists that are I don't know all of them, and maybe some of them are nice people, but I can certainly say that there's some very vocal ones online that could be bullies. That, if you don't say that you love this thing and you want to put pronouns and all this stuff, they could really get on your case, especially if you're a public figure like Gina, who also has a reputation for possibly being more right-leaning. So they would come there and bother her on purpose, including even like saying terrible things to her, threatening her, and things like that. Why didn't she put pronouns in her bio? So at the end, what she did was she just wrote in her next to her name, beep bop boop, which really, in and of itself, that's nothing. You can write that. You can do whatever you want. That is not anything. First of all, it's like 3 words, so it's not 2 words like the same pronouns. And beep bop boop, you can write that. It doesn't. It was ambiguous enough. I mean, sure, did it look like she was poking fun at them or kind of, combating her trolls or whatever it is? Sure. But do I think that that's the end of the world? Do you think that you ruin a person's career over some stupid thing like that? No. I think that they went totally overboard. And the fact that Disney and Lucasfilm wanted her to do like a struggle session and have people lecture her and word apologies so that she bowed down to everybody and say she was sorry for what? For writing that stupid thing? That the mask and her stupid meme, and that somebody thought that she likes Trump, that is not enough of a reason to it's not just that they fired her, they humiliated her. And I think that at that moment it was Disney at the peak of their hubris, at the peak of their thinking that they control the universe, including Bob Iger.
That
I
was a
think,
long time coming, even before all the Iger and all of that. Like, it was building even in the 90s. We are the best. We are the greatest. We're going to charge you for trash in our parks and everything.
I think it really was maybe the first really solid evidence of this growing ideological, dam that was building up in the Walt Disney Company, and then especially I think in Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy. It was building up in other businesses as well.
And how could it not
under
affect their
Disney.
content? Meaning, like at the end, all these
Absolutely.
Last Jedi and all these things, they didn't happen in a vacuum. All of the content started shifting towards all of these ideologies, and not to mention that whole "don't say gay" thing, whatever that was, which was also a bunch of nonsense that they tried to do all this
Yeah.
stuff, and that
Yeah.
also backfired. I think that was another.
Oh, that hurt Disney big time.
There were a few turning points. I'd say that Gina Carano was turning point number 1. No, I'd say The Last Jedi was like, if I had to do like a history and there's like bullet points of like, you know what I mean? Like you're reading a textbook, a historical textbook. I think The Last Jedi is worthy of a mention.
Do you find that humorous? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought.
What'd you say? What would you want to say?
Do you find it humorous that you can ruin a fictional character and people have such a visceral reaction to that that it creates real world problems? Like, growing up, nobody liked Luke Skywalker around me. He's been my hero since birth. Everyone always liked Han, but as soon as The Last Jedi came out, I could not get away from people saying they ruined Luke Skywalker. I don't think they realized how important that character was to him.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I
this
think
is
that they did
just a fictional character.
I think that they did realize, and they purposely did what they wanted to do. There were activists there that purposely wanted to do a middle finger.
Yeah, but like, I don't think the common person understood how important that character was to them. And then just the backlash I saw for like several years. I'm still seeing it. Sorry, go ahead. Continue your thought. I interrupted.
No, it's okay. I was listening. I guess what I'm saying is that the bullet points would be The Last Jedi. It would be Gina Carano's firing, And the Don't Say Gay bill is another moment here. But I'd say that with all of these kind of incidents that started eroding, the next thing I can also think of is this whole war with Nelson Peltz. Beyond the box office decline and all these other issues, the war with Nelson Peltz, they basically, a guy who has, like him and Perlmutter had together so many stocks, and all he wanted was a seat at the board to try to make this company actually less, so far left leaning. He was trying to make it more balanced, and he actually wanted to come and do this, and he wanted a position on the board, and they did everything. They spent $70 million or so just to make sure that he doesn't get a position on the board. And immediately after that, he sold everything. But this is the part.
Say he walked away from that with millions.
Well, but with billions, I think. But in any case,
probably
probably billions. Or no, the company that he represents, like the investors, he made billions for them. Maybe for him it was millions. But in any case, he came out of that whole situation on top. But more than that, I think that interestingly, all these things sort of came together in a puzzle. Elon Musk. I don't know if it had anything to do with Peltz. Maybe that part didn't have anything to do with Peltz, but Elon Musk then he bought Twitter. That's another thing in the list, is that Elon buys buys Twitter and turns it into X. That's another thing in the history books. And the fact that Bob Iger, and this starts to go where I'm saying, how he became the biggest loser. Bob Iger at this point is thinking, I'm more powerful than Musk. I can now, bring him to his knees with his stupid Twitter. We won't advertise here anymore. And then he sat in that convention where he said, all smug and full of himself, how he's not going to, advertise with Twitter. And at the same time, you had Elon doing the famous "Go fuck yourself" speech. Sorry, Sean, but that's what he said. So you have that whole situation that backfired, I think, on Bob Iger, that they thought that they would somehow bully the richest man in the world. I think this is the part where Iger really underestimated Elon, because following this thing, he then backed Gina with her lawsuit. The lawsuit makes them nervous. It still makes them nervous. And I think that we have yet to see what this lawsuit is going to do for Disney. They've tried everything to have it tossed out of court, but it wasn't tossed out. It wasn't dismissed, and it's moving forward. So that's going to be an interesting trial to see what happens there. So we already... Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. I'm really curious, because especially now that Elon is like buddying up to the next government regime, I wonder if they'll try to twist that into getting the case thrown out. I was thinking about that the other day, actually.
Twist that into getting the case thrown out? You mean
Disney?
Like
an unfair advantage where Elon is now part of the government and then trying to...
I don't know if they can do that, because all he's doing is basically giving her the money for a trial. Like, he's paying for the lawyers.
I know, but they'll try to twist it somehow to try and get out of it.
Listen, they can try whatever they want, but I don't know if that strategy is going to be effective.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, their lawyers have already tried a bunch of wild things, some really
a lot of Hail Mary passes.
Hail Mary.
This would be another Hail Mary.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put it past them trying to say, well, now there's something with it. Except that the problem is that even though Elon is going to have sort of an in with the new administration, he's not actually going to be in a government position. Everything is happening with like Doge and everything.
That's more of an advisory thing. He's not getting paid for that.
Yeah, it's
just
more
wonder if they'll be like, oh, he's got the ear of the president, and we're unfairly being prejudiced against, or something like that.
It's a trial by jury of her peers. I don't know if that's going to work. I'm not saying anything. I wouldn't put anything beside anybody. They could try it. They could certainly try it, but I don't necessarily think, if I'm thinking from a legal perspective, I don't know if that's going to help them. They certainly can try it. But back to what I was saying about how all the pieces of the puzzle came together. So he pissed off Elon Musk, Bob Iger. Elon Musk then, backs Gina. Meanwhile, what happens is that amidst all of this stuff with Nelson Peltz at the end somehow, connects with Elon Musk. Now, at this point, and this is according to Nelson Peltz, he's the one that had a breakfast or something where he brought together Elon Musk and Trump and said, hey, you guys should be working together. I mean, if I'm directing a movie, like a Hollywood movie with all this happening, you'd say, no, it can't be. It can't be.
No. That's unbelievable.
You'd say like this is unbelievable. You'd say this is just too convenient that all these people now have all joined forces together, and suddenly Bob Iger, from thinking that he's on top of the world, a one-time person that thought he would be the president of the United States,
Ride of
and
a
thinking,
lifetime.
what'd you say?
The ride of a lifetime.
The ride of a lifetime. Suddenly he's sitting there, and all of these, powerful forces are all joining forces together against him. And I'm
It's
not saying I don't know that Trump really, specifically cares about Iger one way or another, but even Trump in his rallies was saying like, "Oh, my friend," I don't know if he was talking about Perlmutter or whatever he was. He's like, "Oh, he doesn't like all that woke stuff in Disney." So basically, even Trump starts taking jabs at them at his like rallies. He's running for president, and he's like taking jabs at like Disney. Meanwhile, this whole platform that they thought that they would torpedo, with which is X, that they wanted to destroy Elon Musk's influence in X and everything, the opposite happened. I think that these elections, a lot of people went to X because they wanted, real-time news. And it turned out that all of the mainstream media, everything that Iger so many years had in their pocket, in my opinion, with all the reviews and all the positive coverage and all the ideologies and all the bullshit, at the end, this X thing that they thought that they had already like gotten rid of just became stronger and stronger. And the candidate that stands against everything that they supposedly believe in and all of their quote unquote company values, he's the president by a landslide. I mean, in my opinion, Bob Iger in this situation has to be the biggest loser. If I'm looking at all the pieces of the puzzle, he is the biggest loser of the year.
I believe he said everything woke turns to shit. Sorry, Professor.
No.
In this last year, man, like having watched the last 5 to 6 to 8 years, it's been so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Iger could have imagined how everything would turn against him. Not to mention between all the failures at Disney, and then at the end you had the strike, which also made him look like a bad guy even within Hollywood. He has that whole Mr. Weatherman, golden boy has eroded so much. Now this year you could say, well, at the box office, Disney still had a few things. They had Deadpool and Wolverine. They had this. Deadpool and Wolverine is a movie that Bob Iger, I think, I think it was in the Chapek era that
Yeah,
he even
JPEG
got
was the
approved.
one that, yeah.
I don't think
Chapek
that
greenlit
Iger
it.
even wanted such a movie to even happen. And I think that at the end, Disney and Kevin Feige and all those people will embrace the success of Deadpool and Wolverine because what choice do they have? But really, that's not what they wanted. Deadpool and Wolverine is actually the opposite of everything they were doing. It's a movie that I think that Ryan Reynolds had a lot of creative control there, and that's maybe part of the deal that they made with him. And I think that they were hoping that this would just be some kind of outlier. And now, if you saw that poster of Marvel today, they removed She-Hulk and put Deadpool instead of her. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one. That's interesting.
I've
See
been
if
out
I
with
can.
my wife, trying not to live on the internet.
Yeah. Oh boy. They did not really want Deadpool and Wolverine. That was nothing that was ever really on their radar. It was not something that was really something they were excited about. What did they want for the future? They wanted the Marvels.
Agatha.
So
They wanted the
basically,
Marvels. They wanted Agatha. They wanted all of these other things that have been an absolute disaster
Train wreck.
for Disney.
so you have this thing here. The original poster is on top, and then you have the new poster where they removed She-Hulk
Oh,
and
man.
put Deadpool in her place.
Could they do it? They did that with Star Wars like a few years ago.
And Gary of Nerdrotic said one down, many to go. I think I responded to this, and I just wrote that I thought that they should have put Deadpool actually front and center and put Wolverine next to him, and I would have probably removed most of these other people. I mean,
my God, if they were leading the charge, people would be so psyched.
yeah, I mean, that is actually something that people would like. You're right, that people would be psyched about. These people, when I look at it, really, the female Black Panther. I got nothing against Letitia Wright. I don't have anything against her. I didn't mind when she was his sister. I really don't need that storyline that she's Black Panther. I know that Chadwick Boseman passed away. I would have found a way to recast him. It's probably what he would have wanted to continue his legacy. Instead, with all of the quote-unquote respect they showed him, I think that they disrespected him and his legacy. and
Yeah.
she didn't convince me as Black Panther. And that
Mm-mm.
movie Wakanda Forever, like Black Panther 2, without Chadwick Boseman, in my opinion, was pretty crappy.
Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Look, we're talking about, I sat down to watch this with my son. He's not the most discerning of movie patrons, right? He'll enjoy a lot of stuff that I'll be like, really? Okay, sure. But we sat down to watch that. He left half an hour into the movie. He just couldn't take it. He's like, this is terrible. I'm going to go upstairs and play some video games. I was like, oh, well, okay.
Dude,
Right.
like every other day I see recast T'Challa like trending on X. I'm like, this is the obvious move, Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, again, they've totally lost touch with what their customers want, and just so you know, this also transcends people. Well, today I think everything transcends everything, and especially with this win with Trump, which you saw so many people they're like, oh, no Black people will ever vote for him, no Latino people will ever vote, and suddenly he had all these people voting for him. Every group that they said wouldn't vote for him, there were a lot of people in that group that voted for him, but. I guess what I'm saying is that I saw a lot of people who were Black who were saying, this character meant a lot to me, and why don't you respect this man's legacy? I guess what I'm saying, people that could have had different political opinions or different views about society and a lot of different things, were all kind of united in the thought that saying that the sister is Black Panther wasn't the solution.
Oh, but Price, they saw that opportunity to have an intersectional superhero leading one of their films, and they just could not help themselves.
Yeah,
they
they
couldn't
got a
help
chance
themselves.
to put a Black woman in as the lead superhero in our movie, and they said, go for it.
And they plugged Ironheart in there, which was another joke that we're going to see at some point. I'm waiting for that show to be released. That's going to be a disaster.
And it's so gross. They're like, "Oh, he died. Now's our chance." And it's like, "Oh, that's
seriously."
awful.
They could have not made that movie. They could have waited 5 years and maybe put a different actor. There were so many things. Or Winston Duke is a good actor. Have him take on the mantle. There were a lot of things that they could have done to maybe work around this. They didn't bother doing any of them. If they're already going to take an existing character and saying you're Black Panther, why not Winston Duke or some man or anything? You know what I mean? Why did it have to be her? Now, some people will be like, but Price, don't you know that there was a comic book that once she took the mantle? I don't give a shit. First of all, that comic I think came out like in 2009 or 10, when I think Disney already pretty much had their hands on Marvel anyways. Even if that wasn't the case, if it happened before, which I don't think it did, having some kind of variant that they tried something in some comic that probably nobody gave a shit about, that's not the same thing as a character that was around for decades. The original character, not some variant that they tried, some dumb idea that didn't work. A lot of times you have those kind of things that they introduce. Disney themselves bought Marvel, introduced crappy things into the comics, and then they're like, well, it's canon, it's in the comics. No, it's in the Disney canon. The same thing with Star Wars. But it doesn't matter. I never liked the idea that she was Black Panther. I don't think that's what they needed to do in this movie. Next, we have Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Another character that I don't think you can build this franchise on, and based on the lack of success of the Marvels movie, I don't think anybody thinks that she's the future. Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson isn't getting any younger. I really like him as an actor, and I liked his character, but let's face it, in Secret Invasion, they completely demolished his character. Shang-Chi, I mean, Simu Liu is intolerable as a person. I just don't like him at all. As an actor, I don't think he's anything special. The movie itself had moments in it that I didn't completely dislike, but at the same time, there were a lot of things in the movie that I did dislike, and it's kind of forgettable. Sam Wilson, I think, I really liked him as Falcon, and I thought he was great in that role, and I liked him as an actor in that role. I've never really bought into and again, this is one of those variants, never loved the idea of him being Captain America, because I think that he's a different character, and I don't really need this. But if there was any chance of this being any good, I think they ruined any goodwill people had with that show, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which they made all about their identity politics for no reason whatsoever. Sean just muted his mic.
I'm sorry, I'm clicking. I'm working on a comic cover, and I'm worried that the clicking is going to be annoying.
No, it's okay. In any case, then you have Scarlet Witch, which again they ruined her also. in that
Yeah.
stupid Multiverse of Madness stupid movie.
And that, I think that movie could have been good.
Oh
I
yeah, you
it,
let
it
Sam Raimi go off the chains, and that would have
exactly.
been amazing.
Let
That
let
movie,
Sam Raimi just use what he's got, use the talent, the creativity, and really just go for something wild with the just amazing visuals and stuff. And from everything that's been reported, the studio was just constantly messing with it and changing things forcing all sorts of
they
different
made him
stuff
reshoot
into the
about
film.
80%
Yeah,
of the movie.
yeah, it's so frustrating
I
because
mean,
I
Sam Raimi, I want to see the movie that he actually made. There was a movie that he made that he thought he made Doctor Strange 2, and then Kevin Feige, when he was like 80% done, said, "Hey, you know that movie you just made? Forget about it. Now we're making a different movie because we had this stupid WandaVision show on Disney Plus, and now you got to make your stupid movie about her." So he had to refilm most of the movie again, bring back the cast. Imagine how frustrating is that as a director? And this is a guy that's like not
oh
some
yeah.
bozo. He's not some bum. He has a real track record. He's really done stuff, and you're telling him after 80% of the movie that you said you wanted, now you don't want that movie. I mean, that's just I can only imagine that this guy was probably super annoyed. He's very gracious, and you saw him in interviews, he didn't say it, but if you remember, Bruce Campbell said something in that effect to the press. He said, well, they had to I didn't even know if I would be in this one because they had to refilm most of it or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And
So
you can totally tell what parts are Sam Raimi parts. Like she crawls out of the mirror and is like twitching and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's effing Sam Raimi right there. And then it just goes back to crap.
Yeah.
it's such a crappy movie, and unfortunately, it's one that Disney learned all the wrong lessons from because of Spider-Man: No Way Home. That the success of that movie that had Doctor Strange, they said, okay, well now this is a follow up to that movie. It's Doctor Strange 2, so everybody was like super excited that this is going to be a Spider-Man: No Way Home level movie, and then they went to it and it was shit. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember that they introduced a character called America Chavez in that movie?
Yes. Yep.
Has anybody ever thought of America Chavez since seeing that movie?
No.
Why would you? She was basically a non-entity. The only thing she did, she was there to help them jump between universes. That was it. She had no character. She had no arc. You learned nothing about her other than like this real basic backstory of, oh look, she came from another universe where she had two moms. That was
And
it.
and she was another one of those characters they tried to push in the comics and they all knew all different that never took off and they our series would get canceled or become limited and
Hmm.
like all these movies they after Endgame they switched to the all new all different and then just started pushing all this crap.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
let
Then
me just see if I can share this.
they squeezed in all those cameos of all those characters from from a different universe where we got to see John Krasinski as
Oh
That
my
was such an
god.
embarrassment. They just killed them all
yeah,
in 1 second. It was so awful.
yeah,
It's like after that stupid WandaVision show, they continued the same nonsense into this stupid movie. Just
And the
such an embarrassment. And this is America Chavez. I mean, I don't does anybody remember? I can't even remember anything that this character said or did in the movie. You could have just, how you have AI today, you have like you can remove stuff easily. If you now just did AI and just deleted her from the movie completely, it probably would be a better movie.
well, it's like
yeah.
Marvel's Katie. It's like they introduced so much nonsense into that wave of movies. I had to sit through those movies, even though I fast forwarded through them for my previous job. They were all awful.
RSN40 says Disney stock has been going up. Listen, I think a lot of stocks have been going up. Maybe in some way
Yeah.
Disney's has as well. I don't think that it's at the heights that it once was, the stock. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but Professor, do you know anything what's happening with the Disney stock right now?
Well, I think there is a bit of a rising tide lifts all ships kind of a thing. I think there's a lot of stocks that have been climbing recently. I haven't actually checked in on their stock today, but it has been going up. It's up above 100. It's about 112. That is not particularly like wildly high for Disney. You have to remember that if you were to look back, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if you were to look back and see where it peaked in 2021, when we had Chapek there, we were talking about 197, I think was the peak. It was somewhere around there. So it's still middling, right? In its performance. If you're to look at the number climbing up to $112, $113 or so, I think today was the high. Then
What was it at its peak in
below.
recent years?
That's still below where it was during the Nelson Peltz, challenge. When Nelson Peltz was there, the high was I think in the 120s. And then after Peltz got out, it collapsed and it went back down into the high 80s, 90 or so. Yeah.
But I mean, like a few years prior, what was its high? I think it was something
So,
significantly higher.
it was like I think the high in 2021 when Chapek was there was 197. So it was just shy of 200 a share.
So significantly higher than now.
Yeah.
But
So
who knows?
it has been recovering in the last few days, but that could disappear tomorrow, right?
Also,
what happens with the markets.
I'm not saying I think that there's a lot more to Disney and their profits than just their movies. I think the movies is just something that it has more to do with their image. But I think the fact that they had Deadpool and Wolverine, and they also had what was it, Inside Out 2, or I don't know what some
Inside Out
crap.
2 did well for them.
They had a few things that seemingly weren't flops. They were making money, which probably it's always good for the overall sentiment. I don't know how they were doing in the parks, but maybe they were able to show enough positive things to their investors, along with the kind of rising tide in general. Maybe that it helped them, but we have to see moving forward long term what their business is going to be like.
Yeah, I think there is some excitement right now over Moana 2. That's gotten a pretty good reception, at least the trailers that are available, teasers that are out there. It's gotten a pretty good reception. That's due out here in just a couple of weeks. Well, actually, not a couple of weeks. Or a couple of weeks. 27th, I think, is when that's due out.
By the way,
then there's also Mufasa that's coming out later this year. In December,
that looks shit to me, but
the first live action Lion King film was atrocious. I couldn't stand that. I have no interest whatsoever in watching this prequel where they're gonna make it out where you're gonna find out that Scar was the rightful heir and he was tossed aside for Mufasa, and we're probably gonna find out that Mufasa was that he cheated or he was a liar or he's there's something that he did that was evil or whatever, and it so it's going to make Scar to be the good guy and all sorts of crap like that. I had no interest whatsoever.
You got Wicked coming out, I think, next weekend.
Wicked is coming out this week. I believe that's Friday.
This week.
Yeah.
Wicked, that's a Disney one too, right?
Yeah, it looks horrendous.
Is it, Professor? That's a Disney one, right?
Let's see.
Or is it Warner? Now I'm getting.
No, it's Disney. There's no way that's anybody else. It looks horrendous, but I know a lot of people are excited about it from overhearing them.
What is the studio behind that?
There's no way that's not Disney.
It's Universal. It's Universal.
No.
So, yeah, it's not Disney.
Because if it was Disney, you'd have a lot more of these people in the press saying, "Oh, it's like the gayest movie ever."
I guess they don't need to.
It looks terrible. They probably are still doing that, but I feel like they'd talk about it even more if it was.
Yeah,
Disney.
The early reviews right now have been pretty positive, but of course, a lot of those reviews are coming from people who got early screenings.
Did you know it is a two-parter though?
Yeah, it's going to be a two-parter, which they are really trying to hide that fact.
They're really trying to hide that.
To know that.
They're hiding that. They're hiding that fact because they're learning a lesson from Top Gun,
Or from Dead Reckoning Part
Dead
1.
Reckoning
Yeah.
Part 1.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the only reason why, that movie underperformed. I think there were a lot of
Mhm.
reasons, and also the timing of releasing it 1 week before Barbenheimer probably wasn't a good idea.
Nope.
But
Do you think
some
that's
people
not
also
gonna?
some people also criticized that they thought the movie wasn't as fresh as it should have been. I enjoyed the movie. I really think that during a different time frame they would have released it, probably would have made more money.
Oh
It
yeah, I
also,
liked it.
cost a lot of money to make during the
Yeah, it
pandemic.
did. It cost a ton to make. It went way
Way
over
over
budget
budget. There were a lot
because
of
of
issues
various
with it.
things that happened during the coof and
Yeah,
whatnot. So
it was an unfortunate series of events. Even though, when it came out, people were like, "Oh, look, it failed like Indiana Jones," and I was saying, "No, it didn't fail like Indiana Jones." Top Gun, not Top Gun. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 actually made a good amount of money. I think it made like 600 million worldwide, $700 million worldwide. It's just that the budget ballooned to
yeah,
so much money that amount of money, which was decent, just couldn't cover it. Had they worked with a more modest budget, it would have been fine. They went significantly over budget. I sincerely hope for them that part two, or that they're not calling part two, they spent less money on it. I don't know if they did or not, but I hope for them that they did.
Do
But
you think that them hiding that Wicked is gonna be a two-parter isn't gonna piss off the audience though?
no, because they just need the audience to show up now, and they're not thinking about anything else. And they're hoping that this movie will be so good that by the time it's over, people will be like, "Wait, where's the next one?" So,
Ugh, I don't see that
uh,
happening.
I was actually talking about this with Tom earlier. With Tom on Midnight's Edge, and
name dropper.
well, what can I do? He is my friend, and I mean,
Just
it's not
kidding.
like I'm dropping like 70 names every second. I think
Yeah,
Tom
I
is
know.
my
I'm
man.
just messing with you. I'm
But
just
in any case, I was talking with Tom earlier, and no, I know you were kidding, but I was talking with him earlier, and he was saying, and I said the same thing. Uh, there's an audience for that Wicked movie.
there is.
The people sitting here right now, the three of us talking, we're just like middle-aged dudes that like stuff that middle-aged dudes like.
I tried to read the book. I gave up. It was
Yeah.
awful.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
live not far from Broadway, relatively speaking, and for years I also lived even closer to Broadway in New York City because I used to live in the city. And I guess what I'm saying is I've had so many opportunities to see that stupid play, on Broadway, that musical, the Wicked one, and I've never even thought of going to see it. And this is coming from a person. I love The Wizard of Oz. I grew up watching the original movie. I think that's an all-time classic. uh, I would never go to see that stupid Wicked thing. I think that Wizard of Oz. That's a movie that, even though it is a musical, it's such a classic. You kind of let it slide. But I always say that, and I probably sound like a broken record. I don't really like going to these kind of Broadway musicals that they sing and dance. I feel like there's a certain audience that maybe likes to enjoy, some
Mhm.
ladies singing to each other for a few hours. I personally don't like this. It seemed really annoying and stupid, and all the commercials for the play. So when they said they were making the movie, I also couldn't care less. And I do like The Wizard of Oz, but all of this kind of prequel or whatever nonsense this is, it all seems like crap to me. So the reason I'm telling you all of this is we're probably not the biggest target audience for this thing.
No,
They
definitely
want
not.
they want the type of ladies that go out a night on the town to see this musical. It's nice, like they can talk about feelings and stuff and whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fine that it's for ladies. I mean, that's an audience. It's just like, and I think Tom said this, the Barbie crowd, the ones that love Barbie, they're
True.
going to go watch this movie. So this movie could do well in the theater. Not going to lie, it's probably going to do okay. For me, I didn't like it to begin with, and once I saw how Cynthia Erivo, the actress in the movie, was acting, that didn't help at all. In
Is that
addition,
the
that
witch
Ariana
or?
Grande, I think,
Oh
is
yeah.
kind of annoying. What'd you say, Sean?
I'm sorry. I was like, is that the witch? But yeah.
Yeah, that's the witch. She
Both
was.
both of them rub me the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean Ariana Grande. I think that I wouldn't say I dislike her the way I dislike Cynthia Erivo. Really, with her behavior, rubs me the wrong way. I think that Ariana Grande, I don't have anything personal against her, but man, I don't consider that she doesn't look like Glenda, the witch. She doesn't
No.
look like that at all to
Mm.
me. and I also think she's looking kind of weird these days. I was saying, like, somebody told me, I was trying to find a word, like an albino or something. She looks weird these
When
days.
when they do the green makeup.
No, the green makeup is on Cynthia Erivo. Glenda is,
Oh,
is
I
Ariana
gotcha.
Grande, and
Sorry.
she looks like, in Batman, in the Tim Burton Batman, when Joker falls into that
Mhm.
tub of chemicals, it looks like she fell into that tub.
I think the movie's gonna do decent. There's just in overhearing in my everyday life, I keep coming across women that are like, I can't wait, and I watch the trailer and I'm like, that looks horrendous. But
Oh yeah.
you do you. I
Yeah.
hope you enjoy it.
Well, I don't think that they're actually shooting for dudes to be in the
Oh no,
theaters. The dudes are going to go see Gladiator while their ladies go watch Wicked.
and that is
So
a whole other
That's
yeah,
another stinker, really, if you ask me.
another
But that,
whatever.
people are saying, oh, it already made $100 million worldwide. Not that it even matters. It needs to make like 800, $900 million just to break even, because of how much that ballooned
yeah.
outside of its budget. It has to be such a worldwide phenomena for that thing to just even break even. So
The
I don't
Wicked
think that's going to
one?
happen.
The Wicked one has to make that much?
No, Wicked, I think, is going to make money. That,
Oh,
I think, may
Yeah,
make.
I think Wicked only
right.
has to get past like what I looked at it the other day. I think they only have to like break like 650, 700 probably to
Wicked's going to make
start
its money
putting
back.
in their profit. So
Mhm.
that's I think that's totally within reason for that movie.
Wicked is going to make its money back, and you know what? It doesn't matter to me. I like The Wizard of Oz. I don't really consider that like a real prequel to it. It just looks like
Mhm.
crap to me. There's going to be some ladies going in there and getting excited about the weird songs or whatever it is. Uh, really, honestly, I don't really care. If I had it my way, if you want all these kind of, like, I don't know what to say, ranging from woke to not very manly movies, sure, go make these kind of movies. Make Barbie, make this movie. That's exactly the right type of movies that you make to bring that crowd that you want to bring. It doesn't
Yeah.
bother me. It bothers me when Luke Skywalker is like an idiot. You know what I mean? But
When Luke
when that
Skywalker's
Yeah.
painted green.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
no, it's okay. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is there's a target audience for that. It doesn't bother me, even if the movie succeeds. It doesn't bother me. Maybe a little, just because I think that Cynthia Erivo acted in a way that's very rude and very disrespectful towards potential customers. But the
Mhm.
type of customers that are going to like that are not going to care that she was disrespectful.
Hmm.
They probably they get a kick out of being disrespected, so they'll enjoy this movie.
Sure.
So
So yeah, I was wrong. I would the Wicked, the budget was only around 150. So it will have to make around 400 or so to get into profit. So that's definitely going to get there.
I'm recently getting old, and I'm of the opinion, hey, I hope it does well. I'm not expecting anything. Like,
Yeah.
from Gladiator 2, it sounds ridiculous to me. It sounds like a made-up movie like Jaws 14 or something.
Oh,
But,
well, there
I'm
are
like
sharks. They have sharks in the
in
arena.
Gladiator?
Yes.
I
So
mean,
it is historically accurate. They did recreate naval battles
Oh, yeah.
in there. They would pump in water, and it was kind of sealed up so that it wouldn't leak out, and they would have boats in there and recreate naval battles. But apparently they went above and beyond for Gladiator 2, and there's sharks in the water. They brought sharks in. So I don't know. Sounds
I have to
I'm
say
just like,
something.
I hope it
Sorry, go
does
ahead.
well, or I hope they do well. I hope that that I just want positive things for these movies. I hope it's not a letdown for everyone.
I mean, I thought that the original Gladiator was a good movie. It's not my favorite movie, but I think it was a good movie.
Oh,
And
it's one of my favorites, I think.
and the thing is that it didn't need a sequel. I said this before to Tom, and I will repeat it here, just this minor comment. If you saw the first movie, and I don't think this is much of a spoiler, there's a moment at the end where they could have told Russell Crowe's character that he potentially has a son he didn't know about. Nobody tells him about this.
Mm-mm.
Because it is my opinion that when you watch the first movie, it's not implied that he has a son, and the
Mm-mm.
person that they intend that supposedly could be his son It wasn't written that way. And I have many reasons to explain why he was not his son. It wasn't meant that way. It's not what it was supposed to be. And the movie ends in a very definitive, open and shut way. It doesn't need a sequel. But here, in order to make this sequel relevant, what they did is that a kid that you saw in the first movie, they suddenly said, "Hey, that's Russell Crowe's son." And it's like, no, it's not. It's not his son. So the whole premise of this new movie is the son that never was explained that it was his son, and on the contrary, it didn't seem like he was his son at all. Now they're retconning it to say, oh, he didn't know, but it was actually his son. I don't
Yeah.
like that. That actually annoys me very much. It sort
Yeah.
of undoes the first one in a way that I don't like. And then the next thing, this is just based on what people have told me. My own conclusion from that is that they do a plot that mirrors the first one, the kind of thing that Russell Crowe went through. They kind of like what's it called? The Force Awakens rehashes the same idea. This thing just does the same thing with Russell Crowe's character's son, which didn't even seem. What'd you say?
A remake will.
Remake will, exactly. So none of that seems good to me. I am not very excited. I do like Denzel Washington. I do like Ridley Scott. And as a movie reviewer, I'm going to make time to see that Gladiator movie. And it's not that I want it to be bad. If I see it and it really blows me away and I think, wow, I really love this movie, I'm going to come in, I'm going to say that this is good. Sometimes that happens. Like the movie Twisters, I didn't think that I would be interested in it or that I would like it. I went to the theater, I saw Twisters, and I admit that I enjoyed it. I like the movie. So sometimes there's a movie that you think it's unnecessary, you don't need it, you don't need to make it, but still you watch it and you think, you know what, they did something good here. It's very rare, but on occasion it may happen. We'll see what happens with Gladiator 2. Back to Bob Iger before I forget about him. So I was saying that he was the biggest loser of, that's the thread of this whole conversation. He was the biggest loser of 2024 because right now with Trump's win, you could tell that Disney now, it's almost like in the Matrix. You know how like there's that moment where Neo he flips the script on Agent Smith and they're now running. I feel like that's what happened to Disney and to Bob Iger. Yeah, Bob Iger would be like Agent Smith.
It's
Now
whenever he
he's
holds
on
up
the
his
run.
hand and all the bullets like freeze in the air. And
Right. I
drop.
mean, I guess like, I don't know, it would be I don't know if to say that it would be Trump or anybody. I don't exactly know who to say would be the Neo in this case, but or us, it would
Trump,
be like.
he told us he's the chosen one.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm saying that I think we're all like Neo. All the people that have sort of been, resisting Disney's idea, like all this propaganda bullshit that they've been doing for years. Suddenly, there's like, now, there's a real resistance to it, and I feel like they're on the run. So that's why we saw an article recently where it says that people at Disney now are sort of struggling to see like how they can connect more with conservatives or connect more with Republicans or connect more with right-leaning people. Suddenly this thing is important to them.
Well, it's because they've eliminated those people from their company. That's how all of this works, and it's actually their intended goal when they start implementing things like DEI into the workplace, is that it's not initially it's about, oh well, inclusion, diversity, these are all good things, these are going to do things and make things better for us, whatever. And then as it continues to advance, it continues to make more and more pushes for ideological change and ideological purity within the organization, within the hiring processes, within promotion processes and everything. And so what eventually happens is that as you get more and more of that moving into the organization, as it becomes more and more part of the culture of how the organization works, because once that you get those hires that come in because they were brought in for diversity, they were brought in for inclusion or whatever, they're committed to those ideas because they have to be. That's what got them their job. And so now you bring more and more of those people in. They're succeeding not because of their talent, not because of their skill. They got their job, or they're getting the promotions because they're the right color or the right, the right sex or the right letter in the alphabet, whatever. And then the people who are there who have succeeded because of merit, they've succeeded because of their ideas, they've succeeded because of how capable they are at their jobs, they're no longer valued. They don't have any of these things that will help them advance. They don't have any of these things that are going to get them that next job, because everyone around them is values the diversity, they value the inclusion, whatever. They don't actually value those people anymore. So that's you start to get things that are actually anti merit. They don't want that anymore in the organization. So then you get to start hearing things like male and pale is stale that become part of that organization. And now there's a lot of people that say, well, I'm not wanted here anymore. Working in that organization is miserable. And so they leave. They go and they find other work, or they retire, or whatever. And so now you have this total brain drain of all of these people who got where they were because they were capable, they had the talent to really do the work and build great things. They're gone. They've left for, making their own businesses, or finding somewhere where their talent is wanted, and you have left behind just all the people who are committed to DEI. And so this company, they've eliminated anybody that was not ideologically in line with exactly what they wanted. They're all gone. So Disney just has a company from basically top to bottom that's just full of activists. That's all they have left. They're all left-wing activists. That's all the company has left in their employee base. They can't promote somebody from the bottom. They can't bring anybody up who is has those, has a more right wing, a more conservative view. They're not there. There's nobody in the company at this point that they can that they can look to who has any of that uh, you know different train of thought. They have a different politics, but there's nobody left for them to turn to. They've all been chased off over the past 4 years or so, fast 4 or 5 years.
Who would even volunteer to be that person at this point?
Well, exactly. That's the thing. Like I said, that's actually the end goal. It's like, well, we want to enhance diversity, but the truth is that what they want is to impose a single viewpoint on their workforce, on their teams, on how they view solving problems, how they view approaching creativity, and all sorts of other stuff. And so, yeah, they've completely eliminated all of those people from the company. They're gone. And so
But
the only thing that they can do would be to bring other people in. And who's going to want to come in to that company? Who's going to want to come in there unless they're being put into a position of power where they can come in and start hacking and slashing at the people that work there and cutting off the rot in that business? Nobody's going to agree to do that, right?
and I agree with everything you're saying, and just to enhance it, and also to tie it to the discussion that we were having. Look how Bob Iger's Disney is now resuming advertising on X. Remember that big muscle
yeah.
flexing that they did? That big thing that they wanted to teach Elon Musk a lesson, how they don't need a stupid platform. And they basically all, sort of worked, according to him, they kind of colluded to try to make sure he goes out of business, or to, destroy the site, because they thought if they take away advertisers, the site would collapse. It turns out that, starting a fight with the richest man in the world may not be such a good idea. At the end, after this year of Bob Iger with his condescending tone and sticking his nose up in the air and all of his sneaky tactics, at the end, a year later, they are now resuming advertising on Twitter, on X.
Yep. It's not just Disney. It's a whole bunch of other companies all flooding back because they're realizing, first of all, X is still big. It still has a huge audience, has an engaged audience of people who are on
It's
there
huge. It
daily.
actually, it's probably, Elon Musk a lot of times shows that it's considered like the number one downloaded news app, if you
Yeah.
in a certain way. A lot of people go get get their news from it. It's a news source for a lot of people, and I think that this election, Elon Musk really showed what X is and how influential it is, and I think that that's part of the reason why people like Bob Iger are now worried, and now they're like, we have to advertise here. The fact that he has such a big ego and he reversed course on this, I think it speaks volumes.
Yeah. And you had all these other companies that fled after these, alleged, anti-Semitic arguments. I can see where people got what they got from that, but it's also ignoring that Elon actually replied to that discussion again later and sort of clarified what he was saying. But that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, all of these companies just flooding back in here, and everyone's, oh, look at all these people who are leaving X. Oh, it's gonna, so many people. What was it? Went to Blue Sky? Like 18. They had like 18 million new users or something. I don't know, but they also had their reports that they would get like daily that they would have to handle by their users that are reporting various different content that shouldn't be allowed on the platform. Some of it particularly nasty stuff that tends to crop up on every social media site like CSAM. That stuff, it went up considerably. And also just a bunch of people reporting people for nasty comments and stuff like that. So they went from like 3,000 reports a day that their team had to handle to like 40,000, 40-some thousand a day.
I mean, basically, it's as if, let's say, like it almost feels like you have like this fun group of people. Some of them, I'm not saying they're all fun. There's a lot of people on X, and there are some bad people too. I'm not going to lie.
There always are.
Yeah, and I do see some content that I think is inappropriate. I can't say that everything I see there is great. There are moments that like I do notice that you see real istophobes, not the kind that we laugh about, or real ones pop up. You can see some bad things on that site. But I think in general, the idea of freedom of speech is important. And I think that there's a lot of people having a much funner experience on Twitter now than maybe there's ever been there, in spite of the fact that sometimes something ugly rears its head there. But maybe that's just inevitable. But yeah, when you look at that Blue Sky, I actually went to Blue Sky once because I was curious as to what it was. And man, that is like the world headquarters for farts is that Blue Sky thing. That's what I think about it. It's such a. I felt uncomfortable. I was there for like 1 minute, and I had to run away from there just because it was so many farts in one location. Not because like they're offending me, just because they're so you feel like cringe. This kind of cringe is washing over you. That's the best thing I can do to describe that thing.
There's a lot of mental illness on display.
Yes, there's a lot of mental illness. But regarding Bob Iger and Disney, I also want to show you another development. We have this thing. Let me see if I can share it. I don't know if you saw this, but Conan O'Brien has been named as the next host of the Oscars. The thing is that a lot of times it's people like Jimmy Kimmel, especially since it's on ABC. Because it's on ABC, you'd think that they'd want to bring out Jimmy Kimmel as they usually do. They tried to make it seem like Jimmy Kimmel, he didn't really want to host it. But in my opinion, I don't think it really is that he didn't want to host it. I think that they weren't so keen on having him host it because he's such a critic of Trump, who's going to be the president. Conan O'Brien is sort of an old school type of entertainer. He is what late night comedy host used to be, and I mean that in a good way. He's the type of guy that just wants things to be funny. He'll insult everybody. He'll do kind of his own quirky stuff, and he's a more kind of traditional, classic type of host of an event. You know that if Jimmy Kimmel was there, he'd start bringing in all of his TDS and strange politics. But I think that the fact that they went for Conan, in spite of all the spin they tried to do, is because they're trying to seemingly go for a more kind of a supposedly middle of the road crowd now. But it shows a shift, I think, in what's happening at Disney. And again, it shows Bob Iger as a big loser.
Yep.
No, I mean because of all of his nonsense, these little things here show that he hasn't won whatever battle he thought he was waging. I think he hasn't won it.
Yeah. Conan's like farewell speech was like, "Please don't be cynical. I can't stand cynicism." And all we've seen is cynicism for like 10 years. So him
Mhm.
coming to host this, I find refreshing.
I have watched Conan from his earliest days with his Late Late Show that he did. I really have always enjoyed him. He is most certainly on the left, politically, but he generally keeps his political opinions out of his comedy. He doesn't, and even when it does creep in, it's usually pretty tame. He did do the one thing where he traveled to Haiti, right? Because the whole thing with Trump, he supposedly calling it a shithole. Sorry, Sean. The whole thing, but uh, he did that but it was all in fun, right? He went there to go like meet the people and have fun with them and laugh about, hey, he called this place a shithole. What do you think, right? And so it was all kind of in service of the comedy. It wasn't about trying to make a political point or tear anybody down. It was about here's an opportunity to go. We're going to visit this place. We're going to have a little fun with it. And uh, I honestly, I might watch the Oscars for the first time in like 20 years to see
Yeah,
to see
he's
what
not
Conan
offensive.
does, because
I
I
like
do like
Conan.
Conan a
Sorry,
lot.
what were you going to say, Sean?
Oh, I just laughed.
Yeah.
I like Conan. I think that he's sort of he belongs to the previous generation of comedians, which means that he actually wanted to be funny and to do something that's fun for the audience and entertaining. And I think he would be a much better host than one of those Jon Stewarts or Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel. All of those like are just way too political. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they went for somebody like Conan. Again, they said, "Oh, Jimmy Kimmel was super busy with his schedule." That's very nice. I feel like, for some reason, I feel like there's more to that story than that. But that's just my opinion. In addition, I want to share this tab here, which we're talking about all the losses that Bob Iger and Disney have. The fact that Rachel Ziegler apologized after posting anti-Trump comments, that it's not even just anti-Trump the way the Variety is trying to spin it here. She actually attacked people that voted for him. She had very almost threats to people that voted for Trump, which is more than half the country. I think that at this point, we didn't used to see this kind of thing. Pedro Pascal that said something very similar. He didn't apologize. Rachel Ziegler had to come out and apologize, which means that beyond the fact that Snow White is a disaster, I think that Bob Iger, again, this has to be sort of a shift in policy. And we also saw that article that said that Bob Iger is kind of doesn't know how to find people that are conservatives or whatever it is. I mean, he also pissed off Nelson Peltz, who's now friends with Trump. He pissed off Perlmutter, who's also friends with Trump. I really think that he put himself in some strange corner, that he's created too many enemies around him, and he's really gone to war with an entire political party. And I don't think this is very good. I do you think that this kind of reversing course will work for him?
Gosh.
How could it?
Yeah, I think it's too little, too late.
Oh,
I
now
guess
I'm
that's how I
suddenly
feel.
your friend. Now that the people I hated are in control. Like, you gotta go with the flow, man. Maybe someone's in charge that you don't like, but it's not the end of the world. You work with it. Now you're like, oh no, my livelihood's dependent on me getting along with you all of a sudden. We know you don't like people. Like, it's so disingenuous. And like you said, you and I said last time, I think Robert Meyer Burnett said, authenticity is the currency of the future. Be an authentic person, be honest, be upright. Don't be an a-hole.
Right. So at the end of the day, I think it's fair enough that I would say that the person to me that's like if they have like the used to have the Time magazine person of the year, I don't think it's worth anything now, but I think that now it's like the opposite. Bob Iger is the opposite of Person of the Year.
Loser of the year.
Did you
Public
see?
enemy number one.
And now it even says that he's considering selling his stock. Did you see that?
Wow. No, hadn't seen anything about that.
Well, he sold stock before, and people were questioning it, but I don't think much came from it.
Oh, so yeah, if he's got some stock options that are set to expire, then that would make sense. There's nothing strange about that.
Yeah, I think that's what he did last time.
Yeah, there's certain options. When you have options that are granted to you by the company, there's certain dates at which you're allowed to sell them, and there's sometimes expiration dates for those. Like you have those options, they're only good for a certain number of years.
So you're saying that in this case, it would be fair enough if he
I think
sold it.
in this case, from what I'm reading right there, that I mean that as long as what they're reporting is truthful, then yeah, it wouldn't be anything in particular saying, I don't trust the company or anything like that. It's a matter of I have these options, I can cash them out now, or I might not be able to cash them out for another 10 years, kind of a thing, right?
I like that you
So,
had to add that caveat. As long as they're being truthful
hey,
reporting.
that's the world we live in now, man.
That's so tragic.
You got to look at a lot of these different outlets and think, well, are they actually telling the truth, or did they just make this the hell up? Right?
My hope is that we could all be like the Daily Planet in Superman 1979, the pinnacle of truth and honesty.
And yeah, well, I guess time will tell what actually happens and what we see happening in Hollywood. But I think that in general, this hasn't been a good year for Iger, and that it's sort of a reckoning that all the people that he kind of thought he had the upper hand on, and he stuck his nose in the air, all somehow worked together to cause, to weaken Disney at the end and make him look bad. Again, Disney is a powerful company, even with all of this, like what you said about its stock. It's not a company that tomorrow is going to go bankrupt, but I think that certainly the situation in the country and everything that's happened with the election of Trump really has to leave Bob Iger with some food for thought, at least. And I wonder how he's going to navigate this in the future. And ultimately, maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he'll just step down. They'll bring somebody else, and that new person is just going to say, well, I'm starting a new, we're turning a new page.
Yeah.
Although I don't even know if a new person can come in and fix whatever's wrong with Disney, but that's a whole different conversation, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it would depend on who that person is, and what kind of approach they take. If it's going to be if it's going to be a Bob Iger sycophant, if it's going to be somebody who's going to come in and for a long time it was heavily rumored that Dana Walden was going to be the next potential CEO. It sounds like maybe now she's on the outs, given that her bestie did not win the presidential election. So perhaps she's not in the running, at least not as much as she was before. But if it's going to be another left-leaning, activist or Bob Iger sycophant, then no, they're doomed. I mean, as I said numerous times, if Dana Walden came in as the CEO, they'll be selling off chunks of Disney within 2 years.
I honestly go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I honestly don't know how you fix the company without radically re-envisioning what it is. And that's mostly coming from everything that I hear coming out of AI technologies and stuff. Like, I saw a clip with Ben Affleck talking about how AI could revolutionize the industry and how it could replace DVD sales, where if you're selling like a $30 package to put yourself into the movie, and all of that's very possible in my head. But I
thought he seemed very panicky when he answered that. Like he seemed very kind of, he wasn't at ease answering that question, really.
Yeah, well, I also think that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I also think he's lying to himself that actors will not be replaced. I think even if it's done badly, studios will do that as soon as they can possibly do it, so they don't have to pay people $20 million just to be in a movie. Like, I think everyone's always like, "Oh, we can't do it yet," and I'm like, "Well, give it a year."
Well,
And
remember what we got when digital filmmaking really started to take over. When we got, say, the Phantom Menace, or we
Mhm.
got some of these others, where now you had actors standing on a stage in a room with nothing but green walls and some green cubes and a stick that they're
Yeah.
looking at and talking to, and how unnatural and stilted and disconnected it all felt, because they
But the
weren't
whole
actually anywhere. They were just in this room, right? They didn't have the environment to inspire any sort of feelings. They, in some cases, they weren't even on the same stage as the person they're supposed to be acting with,
Mhm.
especially if they're who they're supposed to be acting with was a CGI Muppet or
Yeah.
whatever, right? They There was this huge disconnect of trying to actually make that work, and it feels very awkward and weird. That's what we're gonna have with AI, and
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's what we're gonna have with AI for a long time. It
But
is
the
not
whole
going to be able to reproduce the kind of performance that you would get visually. Oh yeah, you can put them in that scene. You could do that with technology tomorrow, right?
yeah,
You could recreate that person and put them in that scene, but them actually being able to do the work of inhabiting that role and acting out that role and stuff, that is going to be very weak for a long time, because
but
AI just isn't able to do that.
it doesn't mean that they're not gonna do it.
Oh, they're going to
We
try.
watched the industry go from practical effects to digital effects because it was the new hot thing. Everyone wanted to be CG'd or whatever. It like him acting like actors aren't gonna be replaced en masse if they can save a buck. I was like, that's disingenuous. But then he was also like, oh, and I totally agree. If you're in the special effects field, you should be worried. But then he was kind of an a-hole and he was like, but maybe it doesn't need 100 people to do an effect. And I'm like, that that takes away from the idea that collaboration inspires moments that you would not have come across naturally. And I found that really unappealing for him to
Yeah.
say. I'm
Yeah.
like, art is a collaborative process. Like, even me trying to put out a comic book issue, I still have to work with other people, and then it still changes the format in some way
Yeah.
to produce the end result. Like, there's
Unfortunately, I think they've already done a massive amount of damage to the collaboration, because everyone's just work from home now.
Right,
well,
this whole
yeah,
working it used to be that there would be, like, this kind of workshop of all these, artists working together. You see those type of old, Disney animation, movies that you see how they all were a team, and they used to draw those cells together and do all that stuff.
oh,
They've
stop
written
it! You're
entire
gonna make me
books on it.
cry.
What'd you say?
You're gonna make me cry. I love that crap, man. That's
Right,
like
no, I
the
like it too. I had
practical
books.
effects and the animation and all of it.
I have somewhere, I don't know where it is, I have to find it, but I had this big book. It was like a red book that had so much of stuff that happened in Disney with animation and the history of it. Now it sounds like some kind of dinosaur to have a book like this, but it was some really big, impressive book with all this artwork in it. And
I've got some down there.
what'd you say?
I've got some down there on that bottom shelf for like art books and making ofs.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, in any case, there was a whole company culture also with people working there. Yeah, a lot of that stuff
Mhm.
today, when you have people working from home, you don't have that type of collaborative effort. Also people with video games, and we'll get to video games soon enough. But they talk about this kind of toxic culture, blah blah blah. That used to be. It used to be that you had a bunch of people having fun when this kind of smaller studios that were really coming up with these creative ideas. Were they probably drinking beer together and doing crazy stuff and partying and like then working together on these games? Probably, but the games came out fun. You can't
Yeah.
sit around in like different countries where people do like some
Yeah.
one line of code here and one line of code there, and have that same type of fun collaborative process. And then today,
Yeah.
even if they do work together with all the restrictions that you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do this and you can't do that, then you don't even have a company culture that's fun anymore. That's
Yeah.
just my opinion.
Man, I'm sure you could ask Ro from the Quantum Leap chat and the Scarif podcast, like half, probably half of our love for Star Wars. I'm gonna speak for him now. Half of my, and I assume Ro's love for Star Wars, is the idea and the spirit of ILM that made the original trilogy. Uh, there was like a whole personality to that entire company culture, and inventing things on the fly and inventing new technologies, and
People were having fun. I mean,
amazing.
it was a lot of work, and I'm sure it was long hours, but there was this sense of like camaraderie that all these artists were working together to create something magical.
Yeah,
And you do not have that. Not in movies. You don't have that in game. You don't really have that. Maybe somewhere you do have it, but I'm saying for the most part, you don't have it. That's why when Godzilla -1 came out, I felt that magic. I felt that there was a team of people there that worked together under Takashi Yamazaki, who was the director, VFX supervisor, and writer, and I felt that there was some kind of magic there. And when they won their award for best VFX, like the Academy Award, and you saw how they all celebrated and were excited together, it kind of gave me that feeling. And it's sad that, like, you have to go all the way to Japan to some movie to
Yeah.
try to find that kind of special magic. We used to see that kind of magic in our industry.
yeah, man.
Yep. Not so much anymore. But yeah,
No, not at
it
all.
was I was so happy for them to have won that Academy Award, because
They deserved
they
more than
deserve
that.
something. They deserve well more than that. Yeah, it really. I mean, in the end, no, it wasn't the most amazing story. The writing wasn't the most amazing stuff, but
I actually
it
liked it.
was good. It was good. It was in some places very good. And then the special effects and everything that they did with their small team pulled that together, and they did it for about
15 $15 million,
$16 million.
15, 60 million.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm excited. I got my HD Blu-ray today. I'm gonna check
And
it
I
out.
actually, I want to tell you that I actually liked the story. I felt that they did something. Some people will say, "Oh, I wanted to see more Godzilla. Why were they dealing with the people so much?" But you know what? For me personally, I think that as opposed to all those American movies that they can't even build one character that anybody cares about, the story that they told here, it was really, it touched upon things in Japanese culture and history that I think are interesting. Even if I saw that in a different movie, some of the story and things that were going on there, I thought it was kind of, you know, I don't know how to explain it. It broadened my horizons. It kind of explained or showed me stuff, how the Japanese may see World War II now when they look at it. And I
Yeah.
thought that that was very interesting what they did, with their story and their culture.
Well, and it
And the way they tied it to Godzilla. It was
yeah.
almost like Godzilla was sort of a metaphor.
Yeah, well, and that's it. It really it took Godzilla back to its roots. It was not going with a lot of the later Showa era films where it was Godzilla was the main character and he was fighting with another monster, or he was there to defend Earth from the invasion of Hedorah or whatever, right? That's not what Godzilla was in its origins. It really was exploring the fears of nuclear testing, and the impact that it was having on our environment, the impact it was having on Japan directly, and this fear that we were waking some sort of monster that could destroy us with nuclear proliferation, everything else that's tied to the to nuclear weapons at the time, and the fears that existed around that, especially for the people of Japan, having been the only victims of a nuclear weapons being used in war, right? So that was that's what Godzilla was, and it was almost this force of nature that was happening in the background, and then there was human drama that was really the center of the story, experiencing what's going on, thinking about how that changes our perspective of the world, and all of those things. And that's what they went back to with this movie, and that's why I liked it so much. It was not big goofy rubber monster running around punching things, right? It was not giant CGI monster fighting other giant CGI monster like the Monsterverse stuff that we've had over here in the US. It was looking at the drama of the lives that people were living in post-war Japan, and everything else that they were dealing with, on top of now there's this huge threat that's coming in. How do we deal with this? Well, we deal with it in the only way we can. We deal with it by banding together and using our wits and using whatever strength we have to fight back. That's all we can do, is just fight back as a group, as as a society. And so it was it was a really enjoyable film. I love it. Like I said, I got my my 4K Blu-ray today. I'm excited. I was telling my family that I was like, we need to watch this now because you guys didn't get to see this in the theater. It's really good.
It's really good. I mean, I saw it on. First of all, it's great that you got the Blu-ray, and if I get a chance, maybe I'll do that as well. I saw it on Netflix when they had it. I mean, I watched it.
Mhm.
I've probably seen that movie. I saw it once in the theater, and I think that I watched it twice at home, which I don't usually watch movies a ton of times, especially not these days. Really, really like the movie. Like what they did there. Uh, some people like it more, some people like it less. I absolutely like the movie, and I can only hope that the follow up, whatever Takashi Yamazaki is doing, I hope it's going to be good. I was a bit sad that they attached him to J.J. Abrams to make a movie in the U.S., and it's like, man, couldn't they give him anybody else? Just not that overrated, pompous, annoying hack J.J. Abrams. Couldn't they give him anybody else to work with? I was saying that I hope that J.J. Abrams' work ethics don't rub off on this guy, because he's just too good to be working with J.J. And also, I mean, on one hand, I want the movie to do well, and I want to see Takashi Yamazaki's English language movie. But man, does it annoy me that somehow they'll credit J.J. Abrams if it succeeds. They'll be like, J.J. has done it again. JJ is like the Hamburglar of Hollywood. I don't know. Anywhere that there's some kind of scheme that he like can. This is just my opinion, of course, and speculation. Anywhere there's kind of a scheme where he can pop up with his hackery and his sniveling bureaucratic bullshit skills of his, that he pops up with his shit. Somehow he finds a way to do that. Sorry, Sean.
This is my favorite running gag on any stream.
I'm just worried that he's going to turn Takashi Yamazaki into Grimace. That wouldn't.
I hope he's not going to do that.
Yeah.
But by the way, just I haven't said that, but I usually take time to point this out. If you're enjoying this stream, of course, this stream, our headquarters is Rumble. This is a Rumble-driven stream. That's like our home base here on Rumble. That's where we kind of put this show together. It is on some other platforms, but again, like I said, our HQ is Rumble. Rumble is a great platform for freedom of speech. And if you're on Rumble right now, and perhaps you're watching this show because you're watching an app, and the app doesn't make you subscribe or anything, it just shows you the videos. And if you happen to be watching this and you're enjoying what we do here, I highly recommend that you actually sign up for Rumble. And if you do that and you want to even follow us and like the stream, that's also great. Or leave some comments. It's always good and all that. But regardless, Rumble is just a great platform to be subscribed to, so you can get notifications, so you know what's going on here. It's really one of the only places online, except for X, that you could really find real freedom of speech, people talking about different things, different ideas, sometimes things that could be considered controversial. I don't think that there's another place that really gives you that option, in the sense of more long form videos and live streaming the way that Rumble does it. So if you're here, you should absolutely subscribe. That's just my 2 cents. And now that I've talked about that, I think it's also a good time to talk about these gaming awards, and maybe you can shed some light on this, Professor, because today they announced some of their nominations. I was surprised that at least in best game, did I see Wukong there? I thought I saw it.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest surprise that we got in the nominations today were the games that were not included. A bunch of these games that have been very heavily promoted by a lot of different games journalists. Say games like uh, the new Dragon Age game did not get lots of nods for more important awards. In fact, most of them are completely absent from the list of all the nominees. For some of the game of the years, I think there's some great choices in there. Although there's some weirdness here too. Black Myth Wukong did make the lists for potential candidates for game of the year. There's also Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a remake. It's kind of weird. That would be in there. There's a new game. It's a very recent release, Metaphor Refantasio. I've heard a lot of good things about that, and that one is on the list. Another one, Balatro. I don't know if have you heard of that game. It's
Haven't heard it.
it, it's a it's a it's a card game that is a roguelike. So you sort of play you play poker hands, but you have a certain goal that you're trying to get to, and along the way you'll get certain like power ups that will allow you kind of change the way that you're playing your hands and help you get to the higher scores and stuff that you're getting to. I didn't love it. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I understand why it's popular. It is kind of fun because every time you sit down, it's a little bit different experience, right? You're getting something different out of it from how you play the game, and that's actually come out on several platforms this year. So that one, there's some potential there. Astrobot, which was a release for the PlayStation earlier a few months ago, also pretty fun. But the one that really is the most controversial, I think, right now is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, because that's not its own game. It's DLC. It's an
Right. They did some weird thing that instead of actually showing new games that were released, they did these kind of expansion, DLC, whatever it is, and it sort of seems like a weird cop out or a sort of a workaround that feels like it's not based on merit, but more on people scratching each other's backs. That's just the way
yeah.
I understand it.
It's very odd because it's not a new game. It's just an
Right.
add-on for an existing game.
So
So
it
that one was really strange to add that one in there.
it's almost like there was some kind of ulterior motive. By the way, somebody called J-Mans wrote topics question mark, and I'm kind of surprised. I don't really understand the question.
Hmm?
We are
Do we have
discussing
topics?
topics, yes.
Did I derail the conversation too much?
No, no.
No, I don't think. I think that perhaps there's some kind of miscommunication here. I didn't fully understand it, but I will say that seeing Black Myth Wukong, surprised me. It's actually out of all these games, the only game that I did play a bit. Surprisingly, I don't do much gaming these days, but I actually played that game because I heard good things about it, and I thought it was rather enjoyable. So I was happy to see that it was nominated, even though I don't really take these nominations or this whole ceremony, the Game Awards seems like a bunch of nonsense to me. I don't really take it seriously. Still, I mean, those people worked on the game. I guess it's nice. I think Stellar Blade I didn't see was nominated, right? Am I right?
I didn't see a nomination for it, but then I kind of just sort of scanned through. There were some other ones that were some weird choices to put in there. The Silent Hill 2 release this year, which was a remake of an older game. Again, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, also a remake. So it's not actually really a new title. Kind of odd to put those in there, as potential winners for different categories. Stellar Blade got a nod for score and music. Um,
But it was a game that was very popular with people, and I feel like they
yeah,
didn't, they kind of to give DLC an expansion, whatever it is, and not to give Stellar Blade a nomination. It seems kind of weird.
yeah. So it did get the one nod for music, sound and music. One of the areas that was interesting was there's a category for innovations in accessibility.
Does that mean
recognizing
like handicap ramps?
recognizing software and or hardware, pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. Okay. So in there we got Dragon Age the Veilguard, which a huge flop, disaster, but it has top surgery scars in it. So I guess that's accessibility. I don't know. Also, Star Wars Outlaws. I'm not sure what accessibility stuff they
Basically,
put into
all the
that.
woke stuff. They're just like,
Yeah,
fuck it. It's
they
accessibility.
they made
Sorry,
it more
Tom.
accessible for fugly women. Maybe I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how that's more accessible, unless you're talking about all of the game glitches making that game more
All I saw
more
was like
accessible to
30
somebody.
minutes of eating in that game.
Oh, oh man, I watched several different streamers, especially Mauler, playing playing Outlaws, and it's so bad. I mean, just the number of different glitches and stuff that would pop up, it was astounding. And then the way that there's so much of the game that just is so poorly done. The AI for the characters that you're competing against, like you could, there's somebody who's literally standing like inches away from you, or like around the corner of a box, and you can stand up. They'll be alerted to your presence, and then if you sit down again after 2 seconds, they forget that you're there. It's just awful stuff. It's so bad. So yeah, I mean, there's some strange choices in here for certain things that did get nominated, others that did not. Some strange categories. They included there's a category for games that have an impact, so the pro social games with impact or whatever. And of course, they included some interesting choices there. One of them was Tales of Genzera Zhao, which was another game that came up a lot in discussions about Sweet Baby Inc. and having DEI in your games and so on. That's that particular studio. As far as I know, that studio's now defunct. They're gone. Um, so
But
yeah,
But by the way, somebody called One Dirty Bird left a comment, actually not in the chat, but as a comment just now, wrote, as far as the Game Awards, I think including DLC was because so much inferior crap was put out last year. It's possible.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept that argument. I mean, there's some interesting, there's some other things in here that, like, there's a category for community support. So that's about like, hey, like supporting your community, adding new content to it, keeping the game updated, and putting in new things. That would be a place for, potentially like for DLC. It's just strange, that I guess that it's entirely possible that the game environment this year was just so dreadful that they had to put remakes and DLC in there, so they had enough things to cover all the possible categories. But like you said, it does sound a little weird. It's like, we're putting DLC in there. Is this just like to keep people happy? Is this to
It feels like some weird
scratch people's
maneuver.
back? Yeah.
It's very suspicious to me, and usually these kind of things aren't done in good faith. Something feels off to me. I just want us to quickly give a shout out to Tim Hayes, who answered Caleb Levine, and they were both talking about the late great Klobby of Clobber and Times YouTube channel. Like to call J.J. Abrams Jar Jar Abrams. He
Yes.
did, and Klobby was a great guy,
Yep.
and I'm it's very, very sad that he passed away this year, and it happened very suddenly.
Yep.
But it's his name gets mentioned, in so many streams that I'm
Oh, a
on.
lot. Yeah.
People remember him, and I just wish, just a comment, and then we'll go back to our usual programming. Uh, I just wish he left so suddenly that I feel like he didn't realize how much people appreciated him, and that includes myself as well. So always when somebody mentions him, it does sadden me, because he just, it was so sudden. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Until now, it kind of makes me sad when, not that I don't want. I'm always very happy that somebody mentions his name, but always when I think about that, it kind of makes me a bit sad. But We gave him a shout out and we mentioned Klobby,
Yep.
and now we can go on. What were you saying?
Nope. Yep. Rest in peace, Klobby. You'll be missed for many years to come. So yeah, he was such a great dude with such a great community around him, and it's always still good to see people around. Remembering Klobby, because he really was something special. So I was just kind of looking through some more of the categories here. I saw Stellar Blade did get also nominated for Best Action Game. And we got Star Wars Outlaws nominated for Best Action and Adventure. I along with Silent Hill 2 for some reason, and then also Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. All three of those just total duds.
Oh, I heard this. They're trying to copyright the Game Awards. Did you hear something like
Yes,
that?
that's one of the controversies that's popped up in recent days is that they are trying Jeff Keighley, the guy who runs these awards, and his team, they're trying to get the Game Awards copyrighted. So or as a trademark or something. So you would not be able to use that elsewhere. So the worry is that people are like, well, you're trying to get that. If I call my awards the Better Game Awards, are you going to be able to sue me for infringing on your trademark or whatever, right? So some people are I mean that's kind of weird, right? You're going to trademark something that's so generic.
Who cares?
Seems
Call
I
it
don't know if he
something else.
can. Can he ever? Can he actually even?
Well, see, that's the thing that I think that
too broad.
exactly. Well, I think there's going to be significant evidence of prior art, which is one thing that they look at a lot when you try to copyright stuff or trademark things. Is like, well, is this already in common use? Like, I can't go out there and say I am going to trademark my new soft drink and I'm going to call it water.
And even if
it's already in common use.
Even if it's so generic, like it's not going to be memorable. Name it something like the Dundies or something. Like give it a proper identity and a name, something that is worthy of copywriting.
Yeah. I think it's probably too generic to ever be granted any kind of protections like that. But who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, you never know, but it all seems kind of dumb, and I don't know how exactly it's going to play out. We have a few minutes, and just because in the thumbnail I said that I would talk about the show Landman. Did anybody get a chance to watch that?
I have not seen it, but I saw some social media posts today about it. So
never heard of it.
It's a new show on Paramount Plus, and it basically is Taylor Sheridan, the guy that did Yellowstone and did Tulsa King, or the creator. Tulsa King also has Stallone and Terry Winter playing important roles there, but Taylor Sheridan is the kind of like the golden boy for Paramount, the only guy that does stuff there that doesn't lose the money. So basically, he made this show called Landman. It's about people like at an oil rig and the whole business surrounding that. It stars Billy Bob Thornton. It has John Hamm and it has Demi Moore in it. These first two episodes really focused on Billy Bob Thornton. I would have wanted to see more of John Hamm's character and even Demi Moore's a bit more, but I'm hoping that as we move forward, we see a little more of these characters. It's interesting. It's an interesting show, but I feel like these first two episodes, I'm still unsure as to the tone and exactly what the show is going for. I feel like I need to watch a few more episodes to really know how I feel about it, but it is interesting. Taylor Sheridan knows how to put together a show. I mean, he knows how to make it at least somewhat interesting to watch, and it certainly has piqued my curiosity. But I really hope that there's a good direction he's taking this show. I still don't 100% know, and I guess you guys didn't see it, so if you get a chance, watch it and let me know what you think. But right now, I'm kind of cautiously proceeding with it. I'll watch more of it in hopes that it sort of finds its footing a little more. But at the same time, sometimes you start a new show, you can't always hit the ground running. Most shows actually don't hit the ground running.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows that they need a little time to kind of figure out exactly what the tone is that they're going for. The actors need to be able to explore their characters a little more, understand a little bit more about like where they fit in the world, where they fit in the story, and everything. I guess I hadn't seen. I had never actually even heard of it until today, and I saw a social media post about it, and I kind of followed that down a strange path. There were people sharing a particular clip, I guess, from the first episode that
Yeah, they were
people
showing
were
something with his daughter that they were
real
talking
creeped
about
out.
weird stuff. I
Yeah,
I mean, within the context of the show, the daughter is just like a troublemaker,
I see.
that's kind of doing stuff like that that annoys her father all the time. It's fine for within the show. It's just that, like I said, because the tone is kind of uneven, there's a few things that happen that are very serious. Then there's things that are kind of lighthearted. Then there's this that you're not even sure what to make of it. And this is the part where I hope that Taylor Sheridan has a plan that as you move forward, you kind of understand. But I think the idea here is that Billy Bob Thornton, he's divorced from his wife, and his daughter kind of just appears and stays with him for a minute. And she's kind of a troublemaker. She has this kind of boyfriend guy that she, brings as a tag along, and they're kind of getting on his nerves. So I think that whole scene that you see in that clip, within the context of his daughter driving him crazy and acting weird, I think that there's something a bit humorous about it, even though it's kind of awkward. But really, for me, in the bigger picture, I'm curious what they're going to do with this show.
Yeah. He's a roughneck, right? He's what, oil worker?
He's like running the oil,
Okay.
the oil operation there. But then John Hamm is this kind of businessman who's overall sort of his boss. So
Mhm.
like, but he's not with him. He's kind of far away, and he has his wife, which is Demi Moore. And again, I feel like there's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle, but right now, after 2 episodes, I'm not exactly sure how they all come together. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm really hopeful that Taylor has sort of a plan how to bring all of this together. It's not that I don't have faith that he could do something good. It's just that these few first episodes, without me really fully grasping what it's going for, they feel a bit uneven, even though interesting. I don't regret watching it.
I do like Billy Bob Thornton. I think he's an excellent
A good
actor.
actor, yeah, excellent
Really
actor.
puts in a great performance in pretty much everything he's ever been in. He
I,
doesn't
I,
he doesn't phone it in. So
no, I agree with you. He doesn't phone it in, and I actually think that John Hamm, given the right role, is good. And Demi Moore, I like her. She's a veteran actress. I like them both. The actress that plays the daughter, she has like an attitude, and it's sort of quirky and whatever it is.
I
I
see.
don't think the casting is bad. The guy that plays his son is a bit annoying, but there's a guy that also plays his son. I think they're really going to lean into the fact that his children are sort of like losers or
Awful.
jerk offs or yeah, annoying, and they're annoying to him. I think that they're going to play into that. Maybe that's a bit of a comedy element to it, but again, I have to watch more of this to really formulate an opinion. But if I have to give my initial thoughts, I'd say that it's interesting enough to watch a little more. Since we're close to the end of the show, I wanted to watch this video. Did you see this Star Wars clip that I shared?
No, I don't think so.
That I shared it on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it
Yeah.
here. It's just like a minute, so let's look at that, and then uh, share our thoughts and start. You know, let's see. Can you see this?
Mhm.
Hey, droid,
What do you want?
what's your name?
There are some who call me SM-33.
Well, SM-33, I have some bad news. I killed your captain.
Most unlikely. You seem ill-favored for combat.
But it's true. I stabbed him right in the guts and threw him into space. Which makes me your new captain. Right?
What am I to do with these stowaways? Captain,
Hey, no fair! I wanted to be the captain!
as crew you may challenge the captain to a battle to the death.
No, that's okay. Now, SM-33. Show me how to fly my ship.
I don't think that's how that works.
I don't think anything works like this, but that's apparently what Star Wars looks like. That's the skeleton crew. And I wrote that it looks like a Nickelodeon version of The Acolyte, and I stand by what I said.
I can't wait for the Vespas to show up.
I mean, that just really looked bad. I know that they're going to say, "Oh, it's not nice to make fun of kids," but it's not the kids that I'm making fun of. It's the fact that this is really poor dialogue and dumb. It looks so dumb and stupid. Now you can say, "Oh, well, it's Star Wars for little kids." I don't know, man. I'm going to look at it, and if it's embarrassing, I'll say that it's embarrassing. Based on this clip, really don't have a good feeling.
The
This feels like
pacing
some
of it.
dumb shit to me.
Is that the character that's voiced by Nick Frost?
You know, I don't even know. I know that thing looked like crap to me.
Yeah, that's Nick Frost's character, SM33.
People are saying in the chat.
Yeah.
I like the comments. It's the Phobos was saying this is awful, and Common People is saying, "What was that?" Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to tell you. This just Caleb Levine says it was so bad it gave me dysentery. Yeah, I mean, this was really bad. And it's 1 minute, and really, I had trouble getting through the 1 minute. You're watching and you're thinking, when is this over? And
Just the pacing of it is awful.
Right, it feels so slow. And it's like 1 minute, and that minute was torture. Imagine what this show is going to be like. I feel like this.
But it's gonna be so good, and
I can only
you can't say anything about it nasty because we're gonna come for you because you're making fun of the kids. No, we're saying that this show is not well made, and it has nothing to do with the kids.
29 Theory said that was horrific. It was horrific.
It was
I can only imagine. I can only imagine what's going to happen when this thing gets released. I think it's going to be, you know, maybe it won't be as sort of. There will be certain things that were in the Acolyte that probably won't be here, but there will be no shortage of jokes once this thing comes out. This like is inviting. It's as if they made it for YouTubers to watch and have a good laugh, I think.
It's it's rough looking. I know that much.
Oh wait, just now it's the Phobos gifted 5 Price of Reason live memberships.
Yeah.
That was very nice of you, Istaphobos. I really appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you.
Yeah, thanks. We also have a super chat from him. I thought we would wait just a bit on that till we finish talking about this.
Oh, okay. What else do we got?
Nothing. I guess let's move on to the super chat.
Let's go to the super chat, of course.
Istaphobos.
He gifted 5 memberships. Istaphobos is a really nice guy. He sends me a lot of times. He's like, "Oh, I saw this article. I saw this. I saw that." He's always kind of looking for new information, and he has interesting takes and thoughts.
Yeah.
I've done a stream with him before on Mr. Brown's Alliance, and he's a nice guy. Yeah. Go on if you want to.
Jose Istaphobos, a member for $2. Super chat says, "Been lurking. Hello, Dune Prophecy sucks balls."
I haven't watched that yet. I've said it before, maybe on this stream, that I actually, when I was in New York City Comic Con, when you exited it, right next to it, there was a theater that had a special event for Dune Prophecy. And then I came there and I wanted to go in, and they told me that only if I register for an app and give all this information, do I even have the possibility of standing online, which is like a really long line, and then maybe they'll consider letting me in. And all of that didn't rub me the right way, and I just said, "Nah, fuck it. Like I'm not coming to see this." And since then, I think I told you guys that. Since then, I wasn't excited about the show, and I didn't even want to watch it. But that is a true story that happened to me. I didn't appreciate everything that was going on, and it was a turnoff for me. But I will watch the show, and I'll try to give it a chance. But I have a feeling I haven't heard anything good about it. Even those movies were barely all right. I mean, the first movie was pretty good. The second movie was okay, I guess, with a lot of flaws. I really didn't need this series. Did you guys need this Dune Prophecy thing?
No, not at all. And it's supposed to be sort of some background, telling you where this group came from, how did they develop into this group that could control the fates of all these different things? Who are the Bene Gesserit and everything.
It's the Phobos is saying Dune Prophecy. It's a CW show with a massive budget. Remember Caprica.
Oh God. So yeah, I've never been excited about this. This did not appeal to me at all. I have not seen it myself. I have seen a few reviews, early takes. People have seen the start of it, and people that know a lot more about Dune than I do. I've read a few of the books. That's about as far. I was never a massive fan of of those books. I thought they kind of went pretty wildly. They went really weird, like really quick.
I think I know what you mean. I saw that somebody that I'm not familiar with asked if I saw like why I believed a fat man that works at McDonald's. I don't know what
I think it's an anti-Trump thing.
Okay. I mean, we weren't really talking about the McDonald's thing. I think that if you don't believe him that he worked at McDonald's, that you're, I guess, within your right. I don't think he said he worked there. He just went for a day, and I think it was mainly a troll, because Harris said that she worked at McDonald's or something like that. But whatever. I mean, it's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and if he didn't believe the guy that was working at the McDonald's, he's entitled to that opinion.
Yeah, well, with the Dune Prophecy show, like I said, I have seen a few takes from some people who know a lot more about Dune and the different books and the histories of different characters and so on. From what I've heard, they've actually changed a lot. It kind of changed who different characters are from the books and their origins and the influence and the roles that they play in the Bene Gesserit and so I don't know. I wouldn't know any of that stuff, but a lot of what I've heard early on is just that it's very girl bossy and not
what
that
this new thing, this prophecy thing.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it just because I want to be aware of what's going on. I always want to be aware of things, so I'll give it a watch. But it doesn't sound promising because people that I trust don't seem to like it. But I will maybe take a look. I think that now may be a good time to just go back and look at some people that were hanging out with us and give some shout outs. No?
Sure.
So we had Ghost Fixter, we had Marla Sharondoff, Murra Rockstra, Rob Nutskubla, Jonathan Conroy, who has a cool name, Tim Hayes, always good to see him here, Viet Honor, Murra Rockstra, I think I said, these people, I said, The Dead Man, Price of Jaguar, and thanks, Dead Man, nice to see you here, Whalem03.
We got Smilex was here. Hello, Smilex, thanks.
Hey, Smilex, how is it going? We had Kivo 1961. Always nice to see you here on the Rumble side. We had some weirdo. We had Mooley.
We had our fair share of weirdos tonight.
Sometimes we got a few weirdos. What can we do? Mooley Porchers. We had Eraserhead, Cosgrove, Viking Nav, Phantom, Outsider. So nice that people, stop by and hang out with us. Always really appreciated. If I miss somebody, you could always tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going as fast as I can. Player 41. Player 41. Player 41. Not really sure what that means, but yeah, nice to see you here. Player for one. Skyfire 85. That's, I think, a friend of yours, right?
Yeah.
Told you it was a Transformer. I was right. Used to be a Decepticon, but then they made him Autobot.
Yeah.
Theruva was here. And then Mooley Porchers, I said. Kit Kat. Hey, Kit Kat. I missed Kit Kat. Can't stand Mariah. Sean is looking at this with great interest. Doc Fortune. Doc Fortune. Julie Me 12. Not sure what that means. Echo 3. Marks for 7. Hey, how's it going? One Dirty Bird, who had a good comment. Tiwi. Me and My Monkey. Steve Mod 52. RSN 40. Doc Fortune, I think I said to him, Hayes, I said for sure. Caleb Levine. Lemon Curd 0. Cosgrove, I think I already said. Just another red shirt. Hey, I missed him. How's it going? I wish I was quicker at this. But I always want to give shout outs to people. Because I really do appreciate the people hang out with us at this late hour. J Mats left a few comments. Common people, I think I said. Again, if you see me miss somebody, you could say it's the Phobos. Twine Theory. Common people, I think we said. And yeah, I think
I think that's pretty much everybody.
Yeah, we pretty much covered everybody. Before we go, make sure, first of all, Professor R2, he has his own channel here on Rumble, and you could also find him on X. If somebody feels like putting it in the chat, these links, I don't really know how to do it, but if you feel like it, you can. I'm referring to you and Sean. I don't really know what I'm doing.
I don't know how to.
So, and we have also the real Sean Crummell here. Sean has his own comic book, which you can buy at crumbscomics.com. Again, there's probably a way to put links somewhere to let people know how to find it.
I think Professor's on it.
Okay.
I don't think I can actually.
Well, I do it because I have the chats open for Rumble and YouTube directly. So.
Well, you're welcome to put that there, and of course, you should subscribe, follow wherever you can find Professor R2, which he put some links in the chat now, and Sean Crummell. You should check out Sean's comics. You should check out Professor's Twitter, and in addition to all of that, I'm of course Price of Reason. And if you enjoyed this, once again, make sure to hit the like button. If you can, please follow me. It's also cool. That way you'll know when you'll get notifications when we're doing more shows. Even though I can already tell you, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:45 p.m., we have the Night Owl. And we're always happy to have these kind of really relaxed, kind of friendly conversations at a later hour, and hang out with you guys that are still with us. Night owls like ourselves. And I guess
Stephen Mack says we missed him. I'll tell you, Stephen Mack, really weird. Your name isn't showing up in our chats in the
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen Mack. I actually looked through all the names
up on YouTube, so it's weird.
Sometimes between the cross-platform and the sort of the way that we're collecting the data, I always say that because there's always a chance that a name will fall between the cracks.
Yeah.
But Stephen Mack, I apologize if it was you. We're absolutely grateful that you hung out with us and you watched with us, and we hope to see you again here next time. And every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:45 p.m. Eastern, we're here. With the Night Owl. That's me, Price of Reason. I'm with Professor R2 and with the real Sean Crummell here. R2 is the one that looks like R2. And Sean Crummell is the one that looks like Sean Crummell. So
I want an animated avatar. I feel so naked and vulnerable.
So I guess we're wrapping things up, and we're grateful as usual, and we wish you a good night and a good day, and we'll see you all here very soon, this Thursday at 11:45 p.m. Do you guys want to say anything before we head out?
Good night, all.
Good night. Bye.